The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everybody, Corey here.
And it's me, Zach.
We wanted to tell you about our new show called The Coscarelli Factor.
You can find it on our Patreon at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. The Coscarelli Factor covers every single film that Don Coscarelli has directed. And some other little bonus features in there too, like maybe the music videos he directed as well.
That's right. You can find all the episodes under the Auteur de Force tier on our Patreon page. Like Zach said, that's patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. And if you sign up today, you will get access to the complete Carpenter Factor series, where Zach and I went through every single movie that John Carpenter directed, from Dark Star all the way to, well, all the way till the end. So sign up today to our Patreon page and you can unlock all kinds of other things as well, like ad-free episodes and our monthly wrap-up After Dark show.
Patreon helps keep the lights on in the podcasting After Dark world. It gets pretty dark out there at night, and all your support keeps us from getting too scared.
And thank you to everyone who's signed up to our Patreon page. We really appreciate it. And as always,
we'll catch you on the dark side.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom. Tonight's episode, Happy Hell Night, starring Nick Gregory, Frank John Hughes, and Darren McGavin.
No drugs. No sex. No TV. Then what's the point of life, everybody? What's the point of life if those are three qualifications to living said life? Welcome to Podcasting After Dark. It's me, Sweet Sexy Z. Joining me as always is the sleaziest of sleazeballs, my brother from another birth mother, Corey. What's going on, brother?
oh baby, happy Hell Night, my man.
Happy Hell Night. Yes, maybe I will talk like I'm from Transylvania the entire episode, like our good boy Barris.
Oh, Barra, he tried to, but his like fake accent goes in and out. And I'm like, come on, Barra. You know what? While you're at it, why don't you get rid of the fucking mole on your earlobe?
Oh,
my
Jesus.
God.
Hey, you write the checks, I'll make the chicks. What? What? I don't know. This is what I do. This is what I do.
The irony is that Barra is one of the more prolific actors in the movie.
I know.
He's gone on and actually done stuff. I think he was in like Wrong Turn.
Wow. I mean, look, everybody tuning in right now is probably like, what the hell are these guys talking about? We're talking about a movie called Happy Hell Night. It came out in 1991. That is tonight's breakdown. It was my choice. We actually have gotten to the point with our patrons, our executive producer patrons. Thank you so much for being who you are, or producer patrons, really, that we were at the end, towards the end of the year. And we're able to pick our own movies for once. And I'm picking, I chose Happy Hell Night for my pick this month. Why did I choose Happy Hell Night? I'll get to that in a moment.
Why did you choose it in November? Because it was actually going to be your Halloween pick, which would have been perfect. But yeah, we had two Patreon picks in October. So not complaining. Don't get me wrong, not complaining. No. But this was supposed to be Zach's Halloween pick.
Yeah, it was about 5 minutes into it. I'm like, oh yeah, this was my Halloween pick like 3 years ago.
You're like, oh yeah, this movie takes place on like Halloween. Yeah, oh whoops.
Oops. But yet no one wears. No, people wear costumes for like 5 minutes, I guess.
Well, you know, it's like Yugoslavian Halloween. So
yeah, we'll get to all that in a moment. But Corey, what are your what's your connection to Happy Hell Night if you have one?
Absolutely fucking nothing. Never even heard about this movie until you sent it to me. But boy, oh boy, am I happy I watched it, because this movie is wild.
It is. It is. I saw it in 1991 or 92. I'm not sure on the time. Probably 92. It was a Cinemax staple for me. It was on I feel like all the time. And I remember seeing snippets of it one night or throughout like a course of a month. And I thought, I got to record this movie. And it was on like at 3 a.m. on Cinemax. And I set my VCR. Yes, there was a time before DVR, before streaming, when you had to set your VCR to record something on TV, which is what I did. And I knew how to do it. And it recorded Happy Hell Night. And I had that VHS tape for, better part of over a decade at least. And then it got re-released on like Code Red. I think it's unavailable at the moment. And now I own the Blu-ray. I think you can find the Blu-ray on Amazon, or not on Amazon, on eBay, if you're interested. It's also available on YouTube. There's great HD versions on YouTube as well. But I watched this movie multiple times. I watched it with my brother. There's a line in this where we would say it over and over again, TV. And when that happens in the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I said that. This movie has actually, it's kind of like a low key favorite of mine, if that's what the kids say or what that means. But I really dig this movie, and I was reminded of how much I dug it like the 3 times I watched it for this breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a bit of a hot mess, but sort of
in
all the best ways possible that you could possibly want a hot mess to be. It's one of those, so bad it's good type of movies.
Right.
But there are some moments of true greatness in this film, like the antagonist, Malius. He is freaking awesome. I love him. Sort of wish he didn't talk, but the fact that they kind of augment his voice is fun. And then there's this scene in the climax of the movie where they actually bring like a crucifix of Jesus, like a statue of Jesus to life. And it is so much better than I've would ever conceive of in a movie like this, like a next to nothing budget. Actually, all of the effects in this movie are outstanding.
Agreed.
The body parts are great. The gore is great. That scene that I just mentioned is great, and we'll talk about it when it gets there. Malleus is great. It's just a lot of the acting is a little bit rough, but that's what makes this movie so much fun. And it's like a smooth hour and 27 minutes. So probably about an hour and 25 minutes because, the credits and everything.
Right. No, totally agree. I want to point out, I know we'll get to all the cast and crew in a minute, but Gabe Bartalos was the special effects guy on this movie. And if that name sounds familiar, he did Leprechaun, Army of the Dead, Godzilla. Well, he worked on Godzilla, but he's actually, I believe he's directed movies as well. Yeah, he directed Skin Deep, which I think is a really popular cult movie with a lot of people.
Okay, yeah.
I believe it's got Warwick Davis in it, and that was just a cult movie. I wouldn't be surprised if Crystal or Lee say, "Hey, you guys should do that one." But yeah, he's got a pretty bold, pretty impressive resume, and so I just got to shout him out.
Yeah. Like I said, and there's some good effects like right at the beginning of the movie, good body parts and everything. And it's fantastic, so it's this movie's a weird concoction. And also too, and I think why it sort of comes off that way is this is like a joint Canadian/Yugoslavian production. So I'm sure they filmed a lot of the outdoor stuff in Canada. And I think a lot of the indoor set stuff and crew was Yugoslavian. So which kind of gives a reason why Darren McAdams' scene looks like it was filmed in Europe, or something. It looked European.
You said Darren McAdams.
Oh, yeah.
That's why Darren McGavin.
Yeah, Darren McGavin. But yeah, anyways, but Zach, let's get into the cast and crew because we'll bring up all of these points as we go through the breakdown because even though I'm riding shotgun, I have like 4 pages of notes here.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, and I will say that you summed it up perfectly. This movie is like so bad, it's bad with really good moments. And the good moments shine, the bad moments are like MST3K kind of moments,
Yeah, exactly. But That's what gives it the charm. That's what gives this movie a charm.
Totally agree. Okay, so this guy is not the lead actor, but he's pretty much in the first few frames of the film. Sam Rockwell makes his second screen appearance of all time in this movie. He plays a young Henry Collins. Spoiler alert, because it's kind of a big reveal midway through the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of figured that he was going to be the young Darren McGavin. But yeah, he must have filmed this right after TMNT because that came out in 1990. This is 91, and so yeah, I mean, just in the literal, I don't even think he has a minute of screen time, and you can already tell that he's going to be a big actor one day.
Yeah. I remember this movie popping up in Fangoria. When Fangoria would like shout out well-known actors and like, where did they get their start? Like Jennifer Aniston and Leprechaun. I remember they brought this movie up and people were like, well, that's not his first movie. And you're like, yeah, well, no, but it's one of his first movies and it's really bizarre. So there you go. Sammy Rockwell. All right. So playing Zachary Malius, he's the villain in this, is Charles Cragen. And while he may not be a huge name, he's been in movies like True Lies, so that's a big deal. Bullets Over Broadway, Shadows and Fog. Actually, he's so 2 Woody Allen movies. He was in a great movie called Slaughter of the Innocents, playing Sister Mary. If you've never seen Slaughter of the Innocents, it's with Scott Glenn. It's a Silence of the Lambs, I guess you could say, ripoff. I really liked it though. I thought it was a really good, like straight to video movie.
I mean, I always pop for Scott Glenn, so that's fine. But apparently, Kevin Sorbo's in it.
In Slaughter of the Innocents?
Yeah.
Oh God, I haven't seen that movie since it came out on video. Oh boy. Well, there you go.
There you go, Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, Kevin Sorbo.
But yeah, dude, like Malius, like I don't even know if I've seen any of those movies you sort of mentioned. But he stands out. They put him on the cover. Also because we're an audio podcast, just know that like he's this real thin looking dude with a bald head. Great like facial features and everything, but they give him those awesome all jet black contacts in this, and that just really propels this character into, man, I mean, seriously, one of the creepiest supernatural slasher villains. I know, Zach, I was waiting for you. Supernatural.
Thank you.
But seriously, one of the creepiest supernatural slashers in history, man. Like, in this movie, that is literally garbage, like, and he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's like, his villain, his role is too good to be in this movie.
And because while everyone is cheesy around him and all the acting is terrible around him, his character is completely serious and always creepy every time they're on screen. This is what, like, it grounds this movie, not in reality, but it grounds it in goodness, because you'll have horrible cheesy acting around him, but he is fantastic.
Up until the last frame, though, I will say the last frame was a little tongue-in-cheek, a little I know what you did last summer kind of vibe, but I didn't
I kind of love it. I kind of loved it, dude.
Me too. Potential sequel. I will say too that I feel in my heart of hearts, I feel that the preacher in Poltergeist 2 was a heavy influence on his character, because there's a couple scenes in this movie that feel very much like an homage to Poltergeist 2.
I 100% with you, and I've got a couple notes of homages throughout here and everything, and actually some stuff that takes place after this that I think maybe they might have ripped off this, so we'll see.
Oh, nice. Well, someone who doesn't get ripped off but gets ripped up is Darren McGavin, who plays the older Henry Collins. It's the quintessential cameo appearance, Yeah. He probably got paid a shit ton of money for like one day's worth of work.
Dude, and I'm not going to lie to you, man. Like, I love Darren McGavin. Obviously, Christmas Story. Obviously, Billy Madison. 2 huge ones for me. The Night Stalker, he's great in that. I used to love that show when I was a kid. But I think he's fucking terrible in this movie. And I think
he totally is.
He's phoning it in.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I almost wish you just got like an actor that wasn't already a name and just put him in the role, because it's kind of a pivotal role. In just like Sam Rockwell only has like 30 seconds of footage in this movie, Darren McGavin maybe has like 2 minutes of footage, and he's fucking terrible, man. And we know like he's better than this. Yeah,
and like that's your draw for a movie, and starring Darren McGavin. Like that's the thing that's going to get people to go see your movie. That's what you think? Oofa doofa. I think the investors or the producers were probably a little off on that one, but it doesn't matter. He has a really hilarious moment when he gets. Never mind. I'll get
Yeah,
to that in a minute.
I know.
It involves a sheet. But the three like main leads, and that's all I'm going to point out is, and you heard it in the onset. I just pointed out Darren McGavin because he's in it, but Frank John Hughes plays Sonny. So there's two brothers in this, and they share a woman, unbeknownst to one of them. And but Frank,
said woman is technically the villain of this entire movie.
oh, not technically, she actually is, I believe.
Yeah.
Frank John Hughes plays Sonny. Frank John Hughes has quite the resume, doesn't he?
Yeah, dude. And I was, watching the movie. I'm like, I know this asshole from some war movie. And sure enough, he was in Band of Brothers. That's kind of where I'll always remember him from. He was also in Catch Me If You Can, The Offer, and I mean, he's like still working to today. I mean, he was in Justified as well, which a show that I watched, although I don't really remember his character per se in it. He was in 24, Criminal Minds. I mean, he's a prolific actor, but for me, he'll always be like, he was one of the main soldiers in Band of Brothers.
Yeah, he's in a movie that just came out called The Featherweight, with a pretty impressive cast. And so like you said, Corey, he's still working to this day. And I think he's not the highlight. I think his brother, Eric, played by Nick Gregory, is.
Yeah.
This guy is so good. He's been in, well, he's listed as one of his top highlights, known for male porn star in the movie Love Thy Neighbor.
But he does a lot of TV too. Remember that show Alpha House back in 2014 with John Goodman? He was in that. He was in Blue Bloods, You Rescue Me, and stuff like that. So
he's working up till today. He actually is in the movie Target that is directed by Podcasting After Dark alum Thomas G. Waits.
Oh, there you go.
And he actually plays the lead actor in that movie. Well, I think he's listed as one of the leads. So.
And he's, on IMDb, him and like Frank John Hughes and a couple other people are like, there's only like 4 people with IMDb pictures in this entire cast.
So we're going to call out one more, and then there's a quote-unquote cameo or a surprise appearance later on in the movie. But
we'll call that out.
We called out the villain, the true villain of this movie, Liz, and she's played by Laura Carney. Surprisingly, she does not have a IMDb photo. Shocker. But she's been in quite a few things.
Yeah, she's been in a handful of stuff. Class of 61, Pleasantville, Daily Blast Live. I don't know what the hell that is. And that's it. That's all she's been in. So, she is...
so she hasn't been in quite a few things. She's been in a few things.
The way she runs in this movie and the way she screams, there's a reason that she has not been in a lot of stuff.
The way she has intercourse is another... Just get it over with.
Wild, bro.
Get it over with.
This movie's fucking wild.
We'll get this break. We'll get this cast and crew over with pretty soon because I know you guys are like, get to the movie. This is so good. Brian Owens is the director, and he wrote the story. He's responsible for the story of Brain Scan.
Dude, you know what's funny? I've never actually seen that one.
I saw that, I think, when it came out on video, because there was that one, and then there was... Oh gosh, there was another movie that came out around the same time with, now people are gonna drive off the road. Hold on.
But this is the one with Eddie Furlong, though.
Brain Scans with Eddie Furlong. Yep. And then the other one I'm thinking of is with Karen Allen. Karen Allen, of course, from Raiders of the Lost Ark. But it was like they both came out around the same time. I feel like it was called Ghost in the Machine. Ghost in the Machine came out around the same time as...
Nothing to do with the anime, I assume?
Nothing to do... No, it came out the year before Brain Scan, but it was like another character in a computer coming to life or something like that.
Interesting.
Anyways, I remember those two movies came out, and they both were kind of trash. And that's when I started going, ugh, the 90s is putting out some pretty bad stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brian Owens is the director of this. He was listed as Self on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, so maybe he was a kid on the show.
Okay. Yeah, and that's pretty much all he's done. So, I don't know what he's doing today.
Well, he's credited, he gets a writing credit on this, along with Ron Peterson and Michael Fitzpatrick. Michael Fitzpatrick is the only thing he wrote, and Ron Peterson was responsible for Blood Diner.
Yeah, that's I actually have that Blu-ray and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I got it on like I think an Arrow, like for like $10 or something on an Arrow sale.
Because I don't honestly remember if that's any good. He just did the production design on Blood Diner, which came out obviously before this. So
yeah. I do want to call out the cinematographer before you call out the composer, Sol Negrin. It's interesting because he was actually a camera operator on Superman the movie, and like across 110th Street, he was a camera operator. Clean and Sober, Coming to America. So he has like a pretty strong behind the scenes pedigree. He was actually director of photography on Fame, 1984's Fame. And so he's been working behind the scenes. But I wouldn't say that the cinematography in this movie was all that great, but it's, it's fine. It's passable. It looks like a movie. You know what I mean?
Hey, look, I mean, he's a big name. They probably got excited about that. The final product doesn't really show, but actually no, there's some moments that are really well shot, I will say, or at least well lit. Yeah, well lit, well shot. I think the opening scene in the cellar of the mortuary is terrifying.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's really good.
There's a couple scenes.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots that, it does shine in a couple of moments. It does.
And then the composer, simply for the fact that it's really a bonkers score, it's all over the place, but there are some moments when it's really entertaining. There's other moments when it's cheesy as hell, but Nenad Bach is the name of the composer. He sounds like he's been pretty prolific as a performer because 2 of his albums reached #1 in the European music charts. Yeah.
Now I'm glad we, talk about him because the music in this is zany, it's wacky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes like you can tell he's trying to convey an idea, like when Eric is drunk and the music is almost carnival-esque. But
I like that. That's the part I like.
Yeah, I know. So it's like, again, it just adds to the tapestry, the stew that is Happy Hell Night. Because again, like I said, this movie's wacky, it's crazy, but there's a lot of nudity in it, has great kills in it, and has a fantastic antagonist. So like it has a lot going for it, but when you look at some of the individual pieces, you're like, how did this happen?
How did this get made? But that's another show. How did this get made? And thank God it did get made, because it's a wild ride. Strap yourselves in, guys, because Happy Hell Night. Oh, I guess we should we call out Bera?
We need to. Yeah.
All right. So
we weren't going to, but I think we're going to be talking about Bera so much that we need to really call out that actor.
Again, I just say there's times when Corey and I both take issue with the fact that if you don't have an IMDb photo, it's like, well, clearly you're not putting yourself out there to be promoted. So why even really promote you unless you really stood out to us? But Ted
Barrett
Clark
does stand out to us.
He does. Ted Clark, who plays Ned Barra in this film, very similar to he reminds me of in I love this movie Midnight Madness. He's the kind of host of the game that they're playing. He reminds me of that guy. He reminds me a little bit of Eddie Deason, he's got an Eddie
Deason vibe to him. I mean, he gets a lot of screen time in this movie. But I think the main thing to really call him out in is he played one of the monster villains, whatever, antagonists in Wrong Turn. He played the one called One Eye. So, he's actually doing some interesting stuff, a lot of TV stuff. He was in Xena, he was in Hercules, things like that. But he gets a lot of screen time in this movie.
He does, and he's actually really good. He's just really annoying, and I think that's the point of his character, so it's a well-done performance.
Exactly, yeah.
So, should we get to Happy Hell Night?
You're all over the place just like Barrett is in this movie.
Oh, I am. I'm totally juiced up on Ghost, and I'm ready to rock. If they were only our sponsor. Come on, Ghost, get on this.
What happened on that dark night many years ago? What really happened? Who was that man locked up in the asylum.
Eats the bugs in there, I suppose.
Nothing human lives like that. Not for 25 years.
Is he really a man? Or is he a ghoul? The town holds a special night once a year when the kids get to play all sorts of games. What's up?
You know about Phi Delta brothers being murdered in Winfield Cemetery?
What we raised was the personification of evil.
What does all that have to do with this inmate?
It's here. It's here because of my past.
Everybody's dead!
Oh my God! Open the door, man! He's here! All right, Sonny!
Happy Hell Night. Fun and games of a different kind.
Please help me, Father.
So Happy Hell Night opens very cold with a shot of a really creepy guy in a cell as the camera pans away and the credits roll. Happy Hell Night. There's a long, cool pan shot of the hallway in this hospital for the...
Criminally insane.
Thank you. It's referred to in the movie as an insane asylum. I'm just putting it out there for people because I know session 9, there were a couple people that were pissed off like, hey, it's not an insane asylum. I get it. I know. I want to be mindful of that.
You know, it's Arkham. It's Arkham Asylum.
Thank you. Okay. A orderly walks a woman who looks like she's maybe a doctor down a long hallway. We never really find out who she is and what her backstory is. It's not important. As he's leading her down the hallway, she peeks her head into a room of a patient banging his head against a concrete wall. Slowly, he turns and looks at her as you see kind of blood, brain matter on the side of the concrete. And she looks back at him and he just screams, "Ah!" It's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, it's wild.
She screams out in shock. She rushes towards the orderly as the headbanger peeks through the window. Camera cuts to seeing the room where the doctor, or where the orderly has taken the doctor. And there's a big steel door there, but you kind of get an interior shot of it for a moment. The orderly says they check on this guy twice a week just to see if he's still alive. His delivery, by the way, is horrible.
Horrible. No,
horrible.
He's worse. He's the worst one there. He might actually be worse than Darren McGavin in this movie.
Yeah. You get a quick glimpse again of the inside of the patient's room, and there's rats everywhere. He gives a flashlight to the doctor to take a look. She walks over to it's like the hole where they put the food through, right?
Yeah.
And she screams in horror at what she sees, and she walks away from it. The orderly looks back through the window and says, 25 years, he hasn't moved or speak. Quick cut to a shot of a man's arm, said man they're talking about, with a cockroach crawling up the arm. And he says, I don't know how a guy like that lives for 25 years. He just sits there like he's waiting for something all these years. And you see the quick shot of a patient sitting in a chair with like kind of the light frame so you don't get a full glimpse of who he is. And the orderly then says he can wait 24 more years for all I care. Walks down the hallway with the woman. Camera slowly zooms in toward the door of the patient. We still don't know who it is, but we get a flashback to 25 years earlier. Quick cut to the exterior of a church, and then to the interior of the church where there's a man walking down a hallway. You see a priest lying in his bedroom, because it's also like his office. And he's startled by a man holding a bloody crucifix dagger, like a golden crucifix dagger. It's very cool, by the way. The man looks at the priest and says, please help me, Father. Who's that man?
Sam Rockwell, baby.
Yeah. You then
1 second of screen time right here, and then add up all the other ones, and you get maybe 10 seconds total.
Well, he got that one scene, and then they repeat the same scene of him kind of smiling.
Yes, in slow motion to actually kind of draw it out, too.
Yeah, it's really funny. Oh, God, the flashbacks are terrible in this. Like the Darren McGavin flashbacks.
Oh God, yes.
They're so bad. Anyways, you hear a voice on the radio saying, it's after midnight on a chilly Halloween night. The DJ says that the area they're in is called Winfield. And this next
New York.
song,
It's supposed to be New York.
oh, okay, yeah. And this next song is going out to all you fraternity pledges who may or may not be successful tonight in your moments of mayhem and madness, hungry to make the grade on this hell night, 1965. You see the priest / father, or whatever you want to call him, pederast, sure, who walks by. That's from Big Lebowski, by the way. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Oh, and never mind. I'm hitting him out the park today.
You are.
I am.
I'm sitting back and watching, baby.
It's just like, go. You see the father who's walked by the man with the bloody dagger walking into this mausoleum.
It's a really cool like location too.
It's a really cool location. Someone referenced someone on, I forget what website it was, but they had mentioned One Dark Night. This gave them vibes of that. And I'm like, well, maybe the mausoleum scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what I thought when I looked at the back of the case when we were talking about it. Maybe you're just confabulating what I said, and I thought it was going to be One Dark Night-esque, but it's not. It's not.
I'll give you the credit for saying that.
Thank you. I am a website unto myself.
Yes, you are. www.sleazy.com. Look that up. See what...
Yeah, get there. Yeah. Just don't go to wicked.com.
Yeah, don't get... Yeah, that is amazing, by the way.
I love it.
So the priest goes down the stairway down the stairway of the mausoleum to the basement with a flashlight. He's startled to find an open coffin to a man named Zachary Malius, and his flashlight pans the room, and he looks around and sees a pentagram in blood on the wall. He sees a severed hand with his flashlight, and then continues to pan the room and sees several cut-up bodies. It's so disturbing. And then he sees a priest holding a hand in one hand and seems to be a scalpel or a knife in the other hand, and he's covered in blood.
Yeah, and he's got those pitch black eyes, which are awesome.
So creepy.
And I love the villain in this, and I love the fact that he's in a priest's outfit, but he's clearly, at this point, I'm thinking he's a vampire, but he's actually going to turn out to be more of a demon inhabiting, a body type of thing. But yeah, it's such a cool visual to me because the flashlight light is, so stark. So it throws all the shadows on the wall and everything. And he's just like standing there in the middle of it, kind of like holding his hands out. And then obviously the priest is going to freak out, but it's a strong opening because it's a little silly at first with Sam Rockwell and everything. You're like, okay. And then the lady and that sort of that cold open in the asylum. But when it lands on this moment, you're like, oh, there's some goodness to be had in this movie.
Yeah. This is really, if they trimmed the first 2 minutes of this movie off and they just opened with the bloody Sam Rockwell coming to the priest, that would have been a great way to start this movie because it is very shocking. And of course,
because tonally, the asylum stuff at the cold open is a little bit different than the rest of this open,
Right. And it serves a purpose, but not. You could have easily trimmed it off and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But of course, this is the first we hear from Malius saying a no ... line. And he looks at the camera and says, no peace, which is the start of the movie.
Yeah. And that's going to be his theme throughout is he'll say something like no TV, no something, but it's got this awesome voice, which I don't know if it's the actor doing the voice or if it's a little bit manipulated in post.
Maybe a little bit of both. I feel like at the end of the movie, it's his natural voice, but
yeah.
At this point, the father drops the flashlight, runs in horror out of the mortuary, and closes it. He makes sure he locks the door, which is very smart, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because how often do you see that in a movie? Halloween, they just run out of the house. They should have, closed the door. Anyways, it's still Halloween, but now you cut to Winfield College in 1991, and it's now time to party.
And it's interesting because the cold open at the asylum, they say 25 years prior, but I don't think that cold open is 1991 because then I think we even jump even further. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think I don't think this right now is 25 years after that because that would make the dad, he would only be like in his late 40s at that point. Do you know what I'm saying? So like even then, even at the cold open, I think it was like maybe like the 70s. Do you know what I'm saying? So
you're telling me that Darren McGavin is probably like maybe 50 at the most? He's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't
But he
know. It's
definitely
it's
doesn't
wonky.
look-
It's wonky with the time jumps here at the but it's only in the beginning of the movie. Like this is the only point that it matters, you know? But I was just but it made me like put into account like in that asylum scene, when does that actually take place? Is that supposed to be 1991?
I think it is because the guy said 25 years ago he's been for 25 years he's been locked up.
Okay.
And then he's like, he can wait 24 more years. He says 24. Like, I tracked it. I looked at the dialogue. I'm like, what? 24? What? Okay, sure. Like, the timelines are all over the place. But
yeah.
with a movie like this, it's kind of a given.
Yeah. it's not going to be that tight.
No. But there are some things that are tight. And not. So from here, you get a bunch of frat boys, and you see a guy named Jake coming out of a fraternity.
And I tracked Jake as the poor man's Dan Cortez this entire time.
That is a very accurate depiction. Dan Cortez and Joey Lawrence love child. That would be this guy. And he's got a leg brace on, probably from, football injury or whatever.
And probably not the character's leg brace. It's probably the actor's leg brace.
Oh, I think I agree. And I think there's some improv going on here. And actually, I think it's pretty funny when you get to it with Ralph. But he's asking ladies if he's walking by various ladies walking by the frat, and he's asking if they're going to come to the party tonight. He puts his hands on one and she pushes him away. And then character Ralph runs up to Jake as he's walking down a pathway. And Ralph's got a bucket that he's like throwing their flowers on the ground.
And I track Ralph as the poor man's William Cat because he's kind of has that blonde, curly-ish hair. But I mean, both these guys look like they're in their mid-40s, of course, because, they're playing college kids.
I love this. Yeah, everybody looks way older except for Sonny. He's like the only one who actually looks his age.
Yeah. Well, it also doesn't help that he looks like he's 5'2".
Because he probably is, right?
Yeah, I know.
Nobody else towers him. So Ralph is begging Jake that he wants to be in Phi Delta, the fraternity that he's at. And Jake says, you didn't even make the equestrian team. You got scared and fell off a horse. And Ralph says, my horse was spooked, Jake. And Jake's like, how are you going to handle this initiation stunt that we're going to throw tonight? And Ralph says to Jake, if I don't get in tonight, I got to wait another year. And then my old man will cut me off. And then Jake says, well, if we don't win this competition with the biggest stunt, then we're going to lose the competition. And Ralph's begging to get a chance from Jake. And Jake goes, I'll think about it. And Ralph puts his arm around Jake. Jake, again, has the leg brace on. And he's like shaking him. Hey, how's your leg? And Jake goes, it'd be a lot better if you didn't keep hanging on me, which I think is really funny. And then this is funny because I had to rewind it because I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. Jake goes, hey, you got any money? Ralph says, a little. And Jake says, good. I'm dying for a cocktail. Why don't you buy me a beer?
Yeah, I love that. A cocktail and beer are different things.
And Ralph says, yeah, why don't I buy you a beer? Like, okay.
And I love that, like, this shot, they're, like, supposed to be on campus, but they're kind of, like, just walking through, like, the grass. And there's not a lot of background that you can see, but the director chose to make, two extras walk through in the background. But it was like a dad and his like 5-year-old daughter. And like the 5-year-old daughter like looks at the camera and I'm like, and then a piece of trash blows by. And I'm like, none of that was necessary. Like you didn't have to have the little girl in the shot. And now she's like looking at the camera and like pointing.
It's so important. That piece of trash was everything. It's a metaphor for this movie. Cut to a bar. To me, I'm like, this feels like Boston to me because it's like an underground bar, like in a pub, which is literally a basement in someone's house. That they converted into a bar.
I think it was a set. Yeah, it's
but it's great.
It's a Yugoslavian bar.
Yeah, totally. Cut to a bar where we're introduced to Liz and her friend Susan. The wing person, I think.
God, both of them are fucking terrible.
Liz is Eric's girlfriend. Keep that in mind, okay? And Susan's like, what are you going to do? And Liz says, I'm really confused right now. I don't know. And they glance over at Liz's boyfriend, Eric, and another dude playing, I think the other dude's name is Rich. And they're playing darts.
Yeah, that other guy, he pops up, but I couldn't figure out
He's the guy
what
that
his
got
name
killed
was.
at the end. He gets killed on the bed, all stabbed up on the bed.
Yeah.
So that's Rich. Oh, by the way, Eric's wearing a Sweet Delicious Vinyl t-shirt. Do you remember Delicious Vinyl Records?
No, I'm not a big record guy. I'm not like you and Lee and Crystal.
Come on, guys. Y'all know what delicious vinyl is. This is 1991, son. It's right around the time of Third Base coming out.
Yeah. Anyways, all I know is that, like, you know, if we're talking about the guy who plays Sonny being like 5'2", Eric is like 6'6".
Eric's
like,
gigantor.
He towers over everybody.
Yeah, and the fact that he's in this new Thomas G. Waits movie, I'm curious. We'll have to get Thomas G. Waits on and say, hey, let's bring the guy Eric on and talk about Happy Hell Night.
Thomas G. Waits would be like, fuck you.
You're right. So the rich gets annoyed because Eric just won. And Eric goes, well, luck runs in my family. And the rich goes, well, your luck's going to run out, bro, if your baby brother doesn't get back here tonight. And Eric says, don't worry, he'll be back for Hell Night. Besides, my old man cuts his nuts off if he doesn't make it into Delta. They walk over to Liz and Susan, and Eric kisses Liz on the cheek. Liz looks kind of like not into it. There's a reason for that.
The reason is Liz is scum.
Right. Suddenly, Jake shows up with Ralph. Jake tells Ralph to turn the TV on at the bar because it's time for Barris's STV.
Which, yeah, kind of made me think of like SCTV or something, you know?
Me too,
but, yeah.
me too. But like STV?
I guess, is the S for the fraternity? I don't know.
No,
what
because
the
the
S
fraternity
was
is like Phi Delta.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, whatever. It's
Yeah,
called
I don't
STV.
know, Sleaze TV, maybe?
There you go. Yeah, it's Corey's channel. It's Corey's channel. On the TV, you see Barra. You're introduced to Barra, talking about the annual Frat House Follies, the annual competition for the most dangerous initiation stunt by a freshman pledge. Barra says there's another frat in the lead, but Sonny Collins, Eric's brother, pulled off a stunning victory at Laguna Seca motorcycle races, and he's on his way back. Delta has never lost in 3 years, and yours truly has offered an award, so tune in tomorrow on Barra's Beat on tonight's Mayhem. And he finishes by doing this happy, high-pitched voice saying, Happy Hell Night! Ha 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 ha! And throws a script up in the air and he laughs. And he's annoying from the onset.
He is... But there's a certain amount of fun to it, you know. Like it's
great. It's annoying
hard
in a good way. It's annoying in a good way.
Yeah, it's a hard line to walk, to have someone be both annoying yet still sort of charming, still sort of fun, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I like it. I have no complaints. He's annoying in a good way because Eric even says, I hate that guy. And I'm like, yes, that's the point. You're supposed to hate him. Exactly.
No, the only complaint I have, again, is the grotesque mole on his earlobe that I could not stop looking at.
I'm sorry, y'all, and it's all good. It's all good. We all have things.
If you have an earlobe with a mole on it.
We all have things, right? We
all have things.
By the way, I told Bodie the other day about how, like, your private area, your penis or whatever, like when I was a kid, my mom would call it my thing. You know, how's your thing? Is your thing okay? And the minute I told him that, he just lost his shit. So whenever I say, yeah, can you go get me that thing? He's like, what? What did you say?
Oh, how's your thing?
Oh, I love being 10. I love being 10 years old. I love being a dad to a 10-year-old. But Rich points out about Barra, maybe his daddy's sizable donation had something to do with the fact that he's in the fraternity.
Of course.
Jake says, this is so funny because it's so purely written, because Jake goes, nevertheless, he speaks the truth. Like, no one talks like that.
No, that's definitely a written line.
We're in a bit of trouble here, boys. So it's so funny. I'm like, okay, Jake, keep this plot moving. Jake is kind of it's a character that maybe wouldn't matter so much, but he's actually a very important character to the overall story.
We'll talk about it when it sort of comes up in my notes, but he's a character that is actually, even though he starts out sort of scummy, I actually think he's one of the best characters in the movie, like one of the better human being characters in the movie in the way they portray him. But I'll make my case as the movie goes along.
I agree with you. And the opposite of a good character, Liz suddenly says, I gotta go. And Eric's like, where are you going? She's like, I got to go see one of my props, whatever that means, because we never get an insight into who she actually is.
Yeah.
And Susan leaves with her. So suddenly Jake is trying to distract Eric from Liz being weird. And he's like, when Sonny shows, what are we going to get him to do? And Eric kind of comes to his senses and he goes, I'm going to get him to ride on his motorcycle through the dean's house naked. And Rich laughs and says, yeah, with Ralph on his back. This is important. Not important, but hilarious. And then Eric says, don't worry, we're crazy, but we're not that crazy. Suddenly, Bera shows up, and he comes in with a newspaper clipping. He's like, I got it here, boys. Rich goes, oh, really? I didn't know you could get it by whacking your salami. And everyone laughs. And then Bera says, well, you guys have been sitting around fucking the dog. I've been working like one. With the most outrageous hazing assignment in collegiate history. Ralph says, as long as I get to keep my clothes on, and they all tell Ralph to shut up. Barrett reads the newspaper clipping. It says that Winfield banner in 1963 on 1963. That's weird. Anyways, on October 31st, dates don't matter, guys.
Dates don't matter anymore. That's what I'm telling you. I was like, I don't think that all of these things line up.
I'm like, wait, it's all coming to me right now. It says, on October 31st, Sheriff Jesse Hicks, accompanied by Father Thomas Kane, entered a mausoleum in the old Winfield Cemetery and discovered the mutilated, dismembered corpses of 7 college students and a local girl. All the students were members of the Phi Delta Sigma fraternity. And Eric kind of dismisses it. Bera continues in a vampire voice. He says, the corpse of Zachary Malius has been removed from this place of rest. His tomb was marked with satanic symbols. It appears to have been the work of a bizarre cult. A ritual has taken place. Bera looks at everybody, and they kind of look at him dumbfounded. And he says, they never solved the murder, and they never found his corpse. They captured a guy that died in the cemetery, but he never went to trial. And if that hasn't turned your toenails, rumor has it the guy is still locked up in a state asylum. Eric spooks Ralph, and they all start to laugh. And Bera asks, is that nervous laughter? You guys get the willies? And then Eric says, my father was there back then, and I would have heard about it. And Bera goes, well, I checked it out, and it wasn't easy. This town doesn't want to talk about it. But it definitely happened. And Jake goes, so what's the point? Bera says, this is more than enough points to beat Kappa Psi. If one of our pledges can get in there and get a picture of this dude. Eric asks he goes, you want one of our pledges to get arrested for B&E? And Bera goes, if you got the balls, then you don't get busted. He's got a map and a plan and a cell number, not cell phone, but a cell number of Malius. And it actually, this scene to me, like moves the story along, keeps it going, and it's entertaining.
Well, it's also the setup. This is literally setting up what is the movie. This is the beginning of the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Who's the hero? I don't know.
Well, you're about to be reintroduced to the villain because you cut to a motel away from college, and Liz pulls up in her car. There's a dude on a motorcycle rolling down the road. It's Sonny, Eric's brother. They meet at the Lake Edge Motel.
Sonny's got he's definitely got the poor man's Tom Cruise vibes,
big
young,
time,
all the right moves type of era with the hair and everything. He does. I can see it. It's just he never quite reaches that in real life.
He, like his height reaching a high bar, it's just never gonna get there.
No, unfortunately.
Unless he jumps. But hey, God bless the guy's got a great career, it seems like. So good for him.
And actually, you look at his pictures now, he's one of those dudes that got slicked back, white hair and a white beard. He's one of those dudes that has actually gotten better looking as he's gotten older. Like
my mom used to say to me, you're going to be a handsome older man. Like,
you are.
What about now? Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm like, but what about now, Mom? She's like, you're going to be a handsome older man.
I've seen pictures. You're better looking now.
Thanks, I think. This is funny because Sonny rolls up on Liz wearing his white Reeboks, by the way, which was that ever a thing?
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Because I always felt like I wanted beat up white shoes. I wanted white shoes, but I never wanted clean white shoes.
Icy whites, baby. You got to get them icy white, baby.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You know what? Maybe it might also be an East Coast thing versus a West Coast thing.
Maybe. Yeah, that's true. So Liz and Sonny meet at the hotel. Sonny asks, what's this about? And Liz shrugs and he goes, I thought you were going to tell him about us, him, quote unquote. And Liz goes, I don't want to hurt him. And Sonny goes, me too. He's my brother, for Christ's sake. He's got this really thick, New York, Boston accent.
Yeah, and he, I think in Band of Brothers, he played, one of those quintessential New York guys, in the trench type of thing.
Right. And then Liz goes, I can't see you anymore. cut back to the college. We're going to find out if they're still seeing each other or not in a moment.
But like seriously, like, dude, like, so the first time I'm watching
So
this,
she's cheating on her boyfriend with the brother.
Right. And at the first time I watch it, I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just kind of going with the flow. But the second time I'm taking notes and I realize I'm like, she's the worst. Like, she won't tell. Like, Eric is clearly cueing in on something is weird, and he doesn't know why. And I'm kind of like thrown back into those, when you were younger and someone wanted to break up with you, but then they didn't want to like sort of tell you, so they just would hope that you would just fade away essentially. And I'm like, she's such a piece of shit. It's like, really, throughout this entire fucking movie, she's a piece of shit.
She shows up at the bar that she's with him at the bar.
Yeah, she's technically with him though. But she won't tell him that she's banging his brother.
Yeah. Like, of all the guys, of all the fish in the sea, there's all the fish in the sea, she's got to have sex with a brother's fish. Or the fish's brother, whatever. Anyways, you cut back to Eric and Jake, poor man's Cortez, and Eric's looking bummed. They're in the living room of the fraternity. And Jake asks if you want to talk about it, talk about it.
So, yeah, this is like the beginning of also I start tracking him like Jake is actually kind of like trying to get his friend to sort of open up. And he's actually like, Jake is being available to Eric, emotionally. But of course, like any college kid, Eric's like, I don't want to talk about it, But I'm like, it's funny because it happens later in the movie where Jake's like, hey, man, do you, like, I'm here for you type of thing. I'm like, and Jake's also the only one that doesn't like fuck any of the girls and videotape it too.
Yeah, he should have lived.
Yeah, he's actually like the first time you see him, he's being a little like sleazy on campus. But I think and of course I'm just making this like backstory to the character. But I'm like, he's actually a sensitive guy, but he has to put on this persona. But it's true, like the movie portrays Jake as like one of the better humans in this movie. But fucking Liz is the worst fucking human in this film.
Yeah, she's trash. She's only gonna get more trash, by the way. And then Eric even says she hasn't spoken to me in 2 weeks. I'm like, well, she just talked to you at the bar, but okay. Yeah, I get it. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Suddenly there's a knock at the door. And it's the local sheriff.
Local sheriff with glued on mustache and glued on sideburns.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, he's straight out of a Matlock episode or Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, 'cause he's like an older dude, type of thing.
Yeah, which, God, it still kills me to this day. Like, I love a local sheriff in a movie, but they almost always seem to get murdered in so many, like in Misery, when Richard Farnsworth is the sheriff. I'm like, he's going to save the day. Blam. Nope. I'm like, I'm not okay with that. Actually, that scene ruined it for me.
And I think one of the sheriffs in like Sleepwalkers, like the African-American guy, you kind of liked him, but then he gets killed too, So it's always the sheriff always, they always get killed.
Yeah, they always do. That's messed up.
This guy doesn't, though.
No, he doesn't. He's not in this for very long. But he asks the boys if they've seen Ned Barrow around. And Eric says he doesn't hang around here that much. The sheriff's like, that's funny, because I saw his car a few miles back on the way over. He was headed this way. And Jake asks, is he in some sort of trouble? And the sheriff says, well, he was at City Hall doing some research for his TV show. Funny thing is, he left without returning some confidential files. Suddenly, the sheriff looks up at the mantle above the fireplace, and he sees an ice axe or an ice pick, like for climbing, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, real quick, guys and gals, Zach had it right the first time in, like, an ice axe, because I tracked it as an ice pick because I didn't know the term for it, but an ice pick is more of, like from Basic Instinct. This actually has, like, a handle, then like, it goes up, and then it kind of goes out to a T, but, one end is sort of weighted, and then the other end has this, like, curved blade, and all of this is important because it will become the killer's main tool to kill with, and there's actually some really cool kills with it, so it's kind of helpful for you all to understand what it looks like. So it might be called an ice pick, but I would think that's more of something that you break up ice with on, like Basic Instinct. This is more of a sort of an axe that's a pick at the end of it.
Yeah, I kind of did a little bit of digging to make sure of the name, and in some articles that talked about this had referred to it as an ice axe. So
okay, yeah, let's just call it an ice axe because I think people would probably get confused.
Yeah, big long blade on it. Anyways, sheriff looks at it. It's mounted on the wall, and below it it's on a plaque, and then below the actual weapon there's a little gold plaque that says Henry Collins, first to the top. The sheriff takes the ice axe off the wall, looks at it, and says, This is your daddy's, wasn't it, son? To Eric. Eric says, yeah. He used it to chop the ice above the frost line. And then Eric says, did you know my father? To the sheriff. Sheriff puts the ice pick back on the wall, or ice axe back on the wall, and says, take my advice, boys. Keep your fraternity pranks close to home this year. Here we're in for some heavy weather. And as he leaves, Eric just shakes his head. And Jake says, what was that all about? And Eric goes, I don't know. And then there's this random dude, like, who pops out of nowhere, a frat boy.
Yeah, like a pledge or something, you know.
Telling Eric his dad's on the phone. And then there's another random dude right by Eric. And suddenly Eric picks up a volleyball or a soccer ball and like shoves it into the guy's stomach as he walks by. Because, you know, that's what guys do.
Yeah, he's got to be an asshole.
Asshole.
Yo-yo.
Cut to Darren McGavin, a.k.a. Collins, on the phone with his son. He asks if Sonny's back from the races yet. And he says to Eric, I want Sonny in the fraternity. I'm counting on you, Eric. And Eric says, how about we count on him once in a while? And Henry says, it'll be different this time. We made a deal. Eric goes, some things just never change. And Henry says, that's not why I called. I didn't call to argue with you. And he asks Eric, what are your plans for Hell Night tonight? I'm still working on some things. But then he goes, hey, what do you know about the Phi Delta brothers being murdered in the Winfield? And suddenly the music gets eerie. You cut to Henry. What happens?
Oh my God, dude. Darren McGavin,
flashback.
It goes into slow motion. You know, he's like clutching his pearls, you know, type of thing. Like, it's so over the top, but it's like slow motion. The music's raw. And like, he's basically, I'm like, is he having a stroke or what is going on? But my God.
So you basically, in that flashback moment, you realize, you see a priest in the rain and it totally looks like the priest from Poltergeist 2. Like coming to the steps of the fraternity.
Yeah. And you'll get more of the story later, but right now it's just he's getting just the flashback, you know. And it's like, you know, Zach, we're of that age where sometimes we'll get hit by a flashback of something cringy we did when we were younger, you know, or whatever. And like, I want to like do everything that Darren McGavin is doing here whenever that happens. The camera's like zooming in on him as he's like, oh.
It's a great moment. It's so hilarious. And you, of course, see Sam Rockwell with his big ass smile on his face.
Yeah, it's only like 15 minutes into this movie where you put it together that Sam Rockwell and Darren McGavin are the same character.
Yeah, so flash back to the dad from A Christmas Story, and he says to Eric, he's like, I gotta go, Eric, I got another call. Hangs up on Eric and asks for his driver. You cut to Henry getting in a rainy car, which looks to me like downtown Victoria Island, but it's probably Slovakia or some shit.
Yeah, Yugoslavia or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely something European, and it's rainy, and even the license plates are clearly like European. And I'm like, but he's still, I mean, so like he flies to New York like in one day because he will come to quote unquote save the day later in the movie, and it's all supposed to be in the same night. So like he gets back from Europe pretty quickly.
And he's so you're to believe that his dad is like a super low, Eric and Sonny's dad is super loaded, super rich. And there's a reason that kind of gets explained later on.
It does. I mean, it's funny. It's like, it's not super explained. You have to sort of piece it together yourself. But I think a part of that is also, it's not just he was rich, but like he's very accomplished because of that Hell Night thing that happened years ago with Malius. Because the whole like ice axe pick thing, like, you know, I think it's supposed to be implied that like maybe that was like Mount Everest or something, you know, like it's supposed to be for mountain climbing. So, you know, it's like, okay, you get this idea that he's not just rich, he's also like very accomplished and very powerful.
So powerful.
You know, as it would happen if you technically sold your soul to the devil, essentially.
Right. Spoiler. And if you watch this movie 3 or 4 times in a row, like we did, all these things will become crystal clear. Well, no, they won't. No, they won't. Anyways, cut to Eric now driving down the road, listening to Bera on the radio talking about the pledge coming up for the night. And then he sees Sonny's motorcycle at the motel from earlier. And Eric pulls his car into the parking lot, looks around, and walks over to the room where you see Liz riding Sonny naked. They're having sex. No, it's not.
Her?
That was so it's a clear body double. You see a woman from behind on top of Sonny, and then you get a close-up shot of Liz's face looking very uncomfortable and indecisive about what she's doing and who she's doing it with.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it's like no skin on the actor whatsoever. It's a complete like neck up of her face. So, but yet she's still the most uncomfortable looking face I've ever seen. It's almost like an alien trying, if you were like, hey, what's it like to have sex? And they're like, I don't know, I'm an alien, but you know, I've never had sex before in my life. Let me do this. It's like, I've never seen anyone look so bored and concerned at the exact same time.
And sweaty too.
Yeah.
Like really sweaty.
And there's like a weird cut of her looking back. I can't tell if she sees Eric in the window, but Eric can emote, so you can tell like he sees it, but I have no clue if she like saw Eric, because the lady who plays Liz cannot emote normally at all.
No, but like you said, Eric can, and Eric emotes anger and storms off.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just want to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits two challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV, and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.
And now, back to the show.
Cut to Ned in his cool studio in the basement of the fraternity, and he's got a cool Clash of the Titans poster on the wall, by the way, I wanted to point out. And he's got all this recording equipment set up. He's got several television monitors, VCRs, his video camera to obviously shoot his TV show. And you realize at this moment he's monitoring every room in the fraternity. There's a video camera on every floor, every room. He gets a video camera and he leaves, presumably to go to the party that's taking place upstairs. Cut to this party. Everyone's going crazy. Rich, who we met earlier in the movie, is greeting everyone at the door dressed as like a Chippendale vampire. Barrow walks in with a video camera. Rich is annoyed when he sees him. Barrow's like, I got to get my camera set up. And then Rich is concerned that she, and quotes, will spot the camera. And Ned says, don't worry. No one's going to spot it. I'll camouflage it. Besides, she might like it. Haha.
This party is no Dead Kids, aka Strange Behavior Halloween party. That song and that scene still lives rent-free in my head. This doesn't even compare to that.
Yeah, guys, I can't hit 100 out of the park every single time, but I can come close. And this movie, as trash as it is still fun.
Oh, no. I mean, all the shitting that we're done on it, this is all in good tongue-in-cheek, good humor, because, again, this movie's super fun to watch. I love it. I mean, this is a movie that I will watch repeatedly.
Something that's funny to watch is what happens next, because Sonny shows up. Jake spots him first, welcomes him back with a bro hug, bro shake. Ralph comes in, excited to see Sonny. Ralph wants to talk about tonight, but Sonny kind of blows him off. And suddenly a woman grabs Sonny, and she says she's been wanting to talk to him, and he blows her off. And then he walks over to Rich. Rich tells Sonny to take his pick tonight, but not Kim. That's his girl. Sonny sees Eric walking towards him, and then Sonny goes, "What's up?" Eric doesn't answer. Sonny says again, "What's up?" Shrugs his shoulders. It's like the exact same scene. They just cut it twice. And then Eric says, "Where's Liz?" And Sonny shrugs his shoulders and goes, I don't know. And Eric punches him in the face.
Yeah, right in the kisser.
Yep. All the bros pull each other apart. And Rich says, "You want to fight your brother now?" And Eric says, "No, Sonny's busy. He's got a pledge assignment." Cut to the exterior of the frat on his motorcycle with Ralph, and they take off. They pull up at the hospital. Sonny asks Ralph if he wants to do it, and Ralph says, yeah, but he's nervous. They cut a hole in the fence of the hospital, and they climb under it, and they make their way across the grass, and they sneak in. But they're like, sneaking into the hospital, right? And they don't want to draw attention to themselves. And they're waiting for a security guard to walk by with a dog that does not look like a guard dog. It's like a cute little, like a furry. It's kind of big.
It's a poodle. It's like a full size poodle, like a normal poodle, like a
it's not a Doberman
kind of poodle. And of course, right here is when Sonny decides to light up his cigarette.
Cigarette.
I'm like, why here? Why now? I mean, it doesn't go anywhere. The guard walks away and they go do their thing. But I'm like, why is he lighting the cigarette up right when the guard is like right by them?
And he like takes 2 puffs and then he flicks it off into the distance, which could have caused a fire, by the way.
Sure.
I'm just saying. Anyways, nothing comes about that. They break into the basement of the hospital. They kind of break open a window that is like a skylight window above the basement.
Yeah, it's
like
their ground.
Graded,
it's their ground, and it's graded, so you have to break into it. But it would be when they go down into the basement that it's in the ceiling type of thing. But for them, it's in the grass. Right,
and Sonny jumps down. Sonny jumps into the basement. Ralph jumps into the basement and hurts his arm. That's a bit of a foreshadow.
Oh yeah, I didn't even pick up on that.
They see a nurse at a reception desk watching like a bare knuckle brawl boxing match on TV, but it's like a movie.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, and I was like, did they film this just to have something on TV, or is this? Because I was looking through like this, the cinematographer, the editor, worked on some fight movies, and I was like, maybe they just took some footage from like one of those fight films or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's stupid and it's terrible, and this fucking nurse is a fucking pig. Like, she's like sitting there eating her fucking hostess
ding dong.
Ding dong, and it's just like the cake is like crumbling all over her. It's disgusting.
She's eating a ding dong, and not to be confused with the ding dong in Bubba Hotep, but because this is a pink ding dong. Well, I guess it could be a pink ding dong. She's disgusting, and a patient shows up going, TV, TV. I don't know why. It's just a funny moment for me. I lost my shit the first time I rewatched this movie. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing out of your room again? And the guy just keeps saying TV over and over again. She bends him over to watch the TV. She gets a needle out and shoves it in his ass.
But he's going like, he goes, TV. He goes real high. And I swear to God, the guy who plays Barra did the VO for that or something. I don't know, just speculation, but I laughed my ass off.
It's so funny. And he drops like a ton of bricks.
And falls right over.
She's pretty damn strong because she drags him back to his room from that point.
Yeah.
And at that point, that's when Sonny and Ralph sneak past the desk and continue into the depths of the hospital. The woman comes back and she sits back down to continue eating her ding dong and watch her movie.
So it's so funny. It blew my mind and I had to write all of this down. So the scene starts with her lounging with this, like a ding dong in her hand, and it's like half open, the wrapper, but there's a chunk on her stomach, like a chunk of it. So when she stands up, it falls off. At the end of the scene, she walks in and opens up a new, quote unquote, a new ding dong, and a chunk falls in the same spot, which makes me realize that was actually a shot that they filmed first. You know what I mean? Like, so in theory, in essence, this scene is sort of out of order of what they shot in, and it makes sense. Like, you watch it and it all makes sense if it wasn't for the fact that the hostess cake piece wasn't in the exact same spot that she eats it off in the first place. So do you see what I'm saying? So they used what was filmed for the beginning of the scene, they used it at the end of the scene. Yeah. And just the filmmaker in me, like, I mean, guys and gals, I did go to school, for film. And so, like, I see this kind of stuff and I'm like, I can see the editing and I can see the continuity or the lack thereof. And I'm just like, okay, I see how you filmed this and I see what happened.
Yeah. And what I love about it is, like, this movie is a mess anyway. So any of those flaws, you're like, well, at least they didn't have a boom mic in a shot.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Because all that tells me is that they needed her to come back into the shot for the kill later, but they never got that shot. But actually, the editor saved them. The editor made the scene work, even though, you can clearly tell it was supposed to be in the beginning of the scene. But the editor actually did their job. They saw that, like, hey, the nurse is going to get killed later. We need a shot of her coming back in to the room, and he's like, okay, wait a minute, I have it at the beginning of this. If I edit the scene this way, it'll tell the audience what we need them to tell it, and it just, we'll have to hope that they don't notice the ho-ho, the ding-dong.
Maybe
but we noticed.
Made me want to eat a ding-dong. I haven't had
one of those.
It
looked good.
Yeah, it did. Those like pink coconut ones or whatever.
Yeah, remember
Anyways,
the snowballs or whatever?
Yeah, snowballs, yeah. Cut to Sonny and Ralph. They're now in the lower regions of the hospital. Sonny lights a match because it's so dark. They see Zachary Malia's cell room at the end of the hallway. Ralph wants to leave, and he's like, well, tell him we got caught, right? But Sonny convinces him to stay. There's a cross on the door that basically locks the door. Sonny pulls the cross out of the door to unlock the door. They hear a weird screaming behind them, turn around and look, but there's nothing. Sonny goes back to looking inside the cell.
And they're using like a match, and it's one of those things where like the light is so much brighter than what the match would give off, because it's, it's like film lights, and then, he lights it, the film light comes on, but I'm like, a match would not be giving off that much light.
No, like matches don't last very long. They last maybe 30 seconds at the most. At the most. And this goes on.
I'm an ex-smoker, so yeah, they do not last at all.
No. So fortunately for continuity, he keeps lighting matches. Sonny goes to check out the sound that he heard down the hallway while Ralph is waiting at the cell. Ralph is like psyching himself up, saying, it's just an empty room, and he's got a camera with him because remember, they got to get a picture of the patient. Cut to Sonny watching the nurse passed out in the reception area. Cut back to Ralph saying, don't be a quitter, to himself, right?
Yeah, he's like hyping himself up.
Right. Cut back to Sonny, who's now at the end of the hallway, while Ralph's now inside the cell and starts taking his Polaroid, starts taking pictures with his camera. And as he does, you see suddenly the flash brighten up, and you see Zachary Malius's face, who suddenly goes after Ralph, and the door closes. Oh, it's very creepy. It's very creepy.
It's awesome because he's like under cobwebs, like he's never moved. So he's like, the actor, they cover him in cobwebs, and you get these just really quick, almost like Blair Witch-esque, found footage shots.
Very much.
Yeah, like the camera in the movie is the camera that we're looking through, and it's just like a flash, and he's setting up. And another flash, and he's like right in your face. And this is the shit that it just works so well.
It's so good. It's so creepy, and it happens so quickly. And when it does, Ralph so the door is now closed, and Ralph is reaching his arm out the hole of the door, screaming for Sonny. Sonny runs, and he's trying to grab Ralph. What's he going to do? He can't pull him through the hole in the door.
Yeah,
and then suddenly
Ralph is grabbing for him. He's trying to get the door open. He can't. But yeah, it's like, what are you going to do?
He's struggling, but then suddenly Ralph's no longer struggling, but Sonny still has his arm/hand, and he steps back, and it's just Ralph's severed hand.
Yeah. By the way, this is like the second of 3 severed hands we're going to see, and I think they were all just the same severed hand.
Probably. And the door opens, and you see Ralph on the ground with a bloody stump dripping, and he keeps saying over and over again, can't stop the bleeding, can't stop the bleeding. And you see Malius, who's holding on to Ralph with the scalpel, and Malius looks at Sonny and says, no kidding, as Sonny backs out of the room and takes off.
Yeah, and here's another like just moment that's like actually like better than it should be. The whole Ralph saying like, Sonny, I can't stop the bleeding as he's laying there. Like that was actually like a little bit disturbing.
It's disturbing.
In this, shitty movie, this bonkers B horror film. That was just like this little micro moment of like, I was like, it kind of makes my stomach like a little, just because of the way Ralph is like saying it,
Yeah, the way Ralph's saying it reminded me a little bit of Josh Lucas in Session 9, where he's like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? That kind of thing, where you're like in shock and you just you're brain dead at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's good. It's really good. It's a great scene, actually.
It's a great scene, and the next scene sucks. Well, not really, but you cut to Liz and Susan driving down the road, singing to each other, and then suddenly a priest walks out of nowhere in front of them. Liz slams on the brakes, and she goes, that Father Kane guy gives me the creeps. And Susan says, well, what do you expect from a guy who lives next to a cemetery? And they both laugh and drive off. I'm cheating on my boyfriend with his brother.
I'm trash. I'm human trash.
Susan's like, I'm just here for the ride.
It's my car. You're going to steal it later anyways because you're human trash.
Cut back to the hospital where the nurse is still passed out, and there's a scalpel next to her because, there'd be a scalpel next to a reception desk. And suddenly the TV turns back on and the nurse wakes up and she's watching the same boxers beating the crap out of each other. She goes to turn the TV off with the TV remote, but then out of nowhere, a hand comes down with the scalpel into her hand. She screams as Malius slashes her throat. Blood splashes against the TV. Cut back to the nurse screaming, a silent scream with blood coming out of her throat. And cut to Malius's face saying, "No TV." And he walks off.
Yeah, dude, this is a good one too.
Great kill.
Yeah, great kill. I like the slash to the hand. Later on, we're gonna get one to the foot. So Malius sort of has he's got his MO. You know what I mean? But it's great. I love it. I actually pretty much love every kill in this movie.
Yeah, he's used in a very effective way. He's never dumbed down. He's never made to look silly. So far it's clicking. The only thing that this movie, suffers from is like acting, I would say.
Yeah. But that's what we were talking about earlier. It's like as silly as all the actors are and their varying, degrees of how good they are acting, Malius is always the same level of awesome. And maybe up, like you said, until the very, very end at the little stinger at the end. But up until that, he's always great. And they treat him like the filmmakers, actually treat this character seriously.
Yeah. And now, guys, he's out on the loose.
Yep.
Cut to Sonny riding his motorcycle down the road, and he stops to basically catch a breath from being shocked. And a cop comes out of nowhere with its sirens on and asks him if he's okay. And he's like, "No, I'm good. I just had a fight with my girlfriend. That's all." And she goes, "Okay, well, can I see your driver's license?" He's like, Yeah. The scene goes on for almost 2 minutes. That's the scene.
Yeah, and the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, she's going to be the sheriff that maybe saves the day later because, she's actually acting well and she's kind of cool and everything. And this scene literally has no purpose to it whatsoever. Like seriously, cut this scene completely.
I would have loved to, because from here they cut back to the big party. It'd be funny if they cut back to him and he's like, and he's my brother and I love him, but I'm also in love with the girlfriend. Cut back to the party.
Yeah, he's still he's just vomiting his entire feelings to the cop and everything.
Yeah, it goes on for maybe 10 minutes and then at the final of it, he's like, "So what are you doing later?"
Or, don't cut this scene and add 30 seconds onto it when the cop pulls away later and they go their separate ways and she comes across Malius and then Malius kills her. Give us something. Otherwise, this scene with this, cop, sheriff, whatever, deputy, it goes nowhere and it's utterly pointless.
Utterly. This scene, however, is not, because you cut back to the fraternity. Everyone's having a good time. Liz and Susan pull up. And Susan asks Liz what she's going to do, and Liz says, "Tell him I'm out here." Screw you. Tell Eric to come out to you. Well, that's what a person would do who's cheating on the other person's sibling, right? Make him come out to me to talk to me.
Well, but the weird thing is Susan goes, okay, and she goes inside, and then it cuts to Liz walking outside up to Eric. And I'm like, so he never even came out to her. She still had to go to him.
So Liz is a jerk to Susan too.
Yeah.
She actually is, because she
trash.
causes Liz.
Yes.
Yeah, she's trash. She ditches Susan as well, but we'll get to that.
She steals Susan's car. This is Susan's car.
Yeah, it's Susan's car. Susan dies because of her. I just want to put that out. Yeah. Yes. Sonny does. Well, anyways. Okay, like you said, Susan goes inside. You cut to Eric drinking outside of the frat with Jake. And Jake's saying that he's worried about Sonny and Ralph because they should have been back by now. And Eric doesn't care.
Because Jake's a good guy and he's actually worried about his friends.
I know. Yeah. Low rent Dan Cortese is like a good dude with his do-rag. And then suddenly Liz walks up and Jake leaves. Awkward.
Jake's like, "I'm out of here."
And Liz is like, "I know how you must feel." Like, really? You know how I must feel? You have a sister that I slept
banged?
with? And Eric Eric's a really good actor. This guy, he's like, I really don't want to talk to you. And she's like, I didn't mean to hurt you. He's like, well, you did. And he goes, maybe it's time for me to have some fun. And he gets up and walks inside. Ooh, sick burn. Not really, but sort of. Cut to Liz walking outside the front. She looks like crap, by the way. She
didn't have to throw that in, but you're 100% correct. I mean, I hate her. I hate her face this entire movie.
I mean, she's very unappealing across the board. It's because of her actions, y'all. It's not because of her. Anyways, she cuts by she's on the, oh, no, I mixed up. What I wrote down in my notes was she's walking down the side of the frat where she peeks into the basement. The side of the frat looks like crap.
Well, both works. They
both work, though.
I'm leaving it all in. I'm not even editing that.
This like dilapidated European building, it's all like worn down. It looks really crappy.
Dude, I mean, not that Yugoslavian buildings are crappy, but like, seriously, you can tell that this building is in Yugoslavia, and we only see like 10% of it, but you can just tell that it's not like American sort of like groundskeeping and architecture.
It's worn out. I think this is one of Corey's favorite scenes that's about to come up because she sees Bera in his studio and she comes to see him. As she comes into his studio, he's watching a TV monitor of a woman having sex with her boyfriend or whatever.
Yeah, is that Rich? I think that's Rich and his girl,
I think that's
right?
Rich and Kim. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kim is making guttural noises that I don't think I've ever heard or ever want to hear again. And as she is, Bera's watching, he's like, oh, baby. He's basically narrating the whole time. This is when you see a great shot of his ear.
Yeah.
And he's narrating the sex that's going on. And Liz surprises him. And she's like, that's disgusting. And he goes, Bera goes, thanks. And then he's like, what are you doing down here? And then she says, I'm hiding. And as she's starting to walk out, she finds the newspaper clipping that he was showing the guys earlier. And she's looking at it. She goes, is this what you asked Sonny to do for his pledge assignment, Bera? And Bera goes, no, he's painting grass at City Hall. And she goes, bullshit. And he goes, no, it's fluorescent pink. She goes, tell me the truth or I'm going to have to call your mother and tell her what you're really doing with all the toys she bought you. And Barris goes, okay. He had to go to the insane asylum and photograph some guy. That's all. No big deal. And she goes, why is he not back yet? And Bera goes, bike trouble? ? Liz then says, maybe we should call the police. And Bera goes, no. He'll get busted for B&E and I'll be an accomplice. And then Liz goes, you should have thought of that before. And she takes the newspaper clipping and she leaves. Meanwhile, you continue to hear the woman getting pounded in the background.
Well, as I was going to say, so like the entire time of this conversation, there's sex happening and Liz, like, it doesn't even care that like her fellow female classmate is, getting videotaped having sex unbeknownst to that person. Like, this is all very bad and very illegal. And Liz, like, doesn't give a fuck. And then this was like, for me, this was the nail in the coffin where I was like, you're such garbage. You're not even like saying, ripping out the tape and being like, this is fucking horrible. Like what you're doing here is fucking horrible, Bera. And she's like, you know what? Maybe I'll tell your mom about it if you don't give me what I want. And I'm like, you're just as fucking bad as he is.
Right. Now she's terrible. She is terrible. He's terrible too.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys. They're both, well, no. Sorry.
No. Liz does not get the comeuppance.
Yeah, she doesn't.
She gets her fucking happy ending.
In fact, and also she just steals her friend's car at this point because you cut to her.
She steals Susan's car.
Getting out, like taking off and driving off to, basically to go to, she's going to go to the cemetery / church where Father Kane is, All Saints Church. Because she reads the article saying that a man was discovered in the cemetery and was taken into the care of Father Kane at All Saints Church and delivered to the state asylum. Suddenly, Susan comes out and yells out to Liz, like, what the hell? And Liz drives off, leaving Susan there and to die eventually.
God.
Cut to Eric at the party getting drunk. Jake pops up and check in on him. And he goes, So Eric's taking a big swig off a bottle of vodka.
Yeah.
Jake, like, kind of nicely, in a joking bro kind of way, he's like, I think you should save some of that for the guests. And Eric says, why don't you go fuck yourself? And Jake says, I think you should have spoken to Sonny about this. And Eric says, why? Get more details? Jake says, what did Liz say to you? And Eric goes, Liz who? Eric gets up, totally drunk, grabs Bera, as Bera's in the party as well, and he asks for an extra camera. Bera says, for what for? Eric says, cut the crap. I know about your little show. You got an extra camera? And Bera says, like this one? And Eric says, go put it in my room. And he shoves him off. And Bera says, okay, all weakly. Eric walks over to a woman sitting down in a chair and says, I haven't seen you here. And the woman says, I've been here. Maybe you haven't been looking. And Eric says, well, I'm looking now. And then he looks at her and he says, you want to fuck? And she says, sure. Why not? And she puts out her hand for him to take it, and he just walks off. And she like looks at him, and she just, slowly gets up and follows him. Yeah. Who is said woman who basically gets no love from this guy? Who is that woman?
Dude, first time I watched it, I was like, oh, because she's going to have some more to do later. And I'm like, oh, she's a pretty good actress, and she looks familiar, but I don't know why. So she is uncredited in this movie, but it's Georgia Fox in one of her earlier roles. And if that name doesn't sound familiar to you, she was on ER for I think 3 years. She was kind of like a little bit of I think she was like the bad girl, the brunette bad girl on it a little bit. But she was also Leonard's wife in Memento. She was on CSI for ever, I think for a million years on that show too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you'd recognize her if you see her, but she's uncredited, and I didn't technically even know it was her. I mean, I was like, the whole time I'm watching, she looks so familiar to me, but it was in the trailer. This Code Red Blu-ray only has one special feature, and that's the trailer. So I was like, well, I might as well watch it.
And it's better than nothing.
And they're showing Darren McGavin's in this, Sam Rockwell's in it. And they're like, and Georgia Fox. And I'm like, oh my God, it's her. So yeah, dude, fucking pre-ER and everything. She's
in a total of 3 scenes, which maybe are 3 minutes altogether, but it's pretty funny.
But she is hands down the best actor in the entire film, everything she does, and she is going to have the best death in the entire movie.
Yeah, guaranteed. Cut to someone who should have but didn't, Liz, driving to the church. She enters the church and calls out for Father Kane. He's in his office, the same office/bedroom that he was in earlier in the movie 25 years ago. And in a very Transylvania voice, he says, sit down. What brings such a lovely young lady out on a night like this?
And he pouring her a drink, though. And I'm like, yeah. Are they supposed to drink? Is that what they're supposed to do?
It's the communion wine or whatever they have on Friday for, I don't know, with the communion wafers or whatever.
But you don't offer that to somebody as a drink, though.
Would you like some Manischewitz? I got that from my friend, the rabbi, down the street. Liz says she needs some advice. She tells the father that her friend was sent on a pledge assignment and he hasn't returned and thinks that he could be in trouble. And this is... The father goes, who is this young man? And what was his assignment? It's so bad.
Yeah, it's such dialogue. It's such written dialogue.
Tell me who this man is and what was his assignment.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
What does he do? She tells the father he was sent to a state asylum, and they told him to break into a cell and get a picture of an inmate connected with the Phi Delta murders. Suddenly, the father, who's lighting candles, he gets upset and he says, how long has it been since he's been missing? And Liz says, I'm not sure. And then the father says, there are things we must make ready. We don't have much time. Father tells Liz to go
suck your blood.
He tells her to go back to the frat house and warn them. They're all in grave danger. They must leave immediately. He pushes her out of the room and does the Holy Spirit thing, at the north, south, east, west. Whatever the hell that is. Anyways, he goes to a closet and he gets a bag full of fatherly Christ stuff. And it flashes back to a young Henry showing up at his bed with the crucifix dagger. Flashes forward to the father writing a letter. In the letter he writes, for 25 years I've guarded the confession of a young man, when in the moment of weakness forsake his immortal soul, and by doing so released upon the world an unspeakable evil. tonight I have reason to believe. Yeah, the reason is a woman who just confessed this to you.
Yeah.
Reason to believe that this cunning and powerful force walks again among us. Should this be true, it would be my task to stop it. So now you got another protagonist in Father Kane.
Yeah.
No relation to Brother Kane. And full shine on. That was the best part of that Halloween movie, by the way. That Brother Kane song. The one with Paul Rudd in it.
Yeah.
The father flashes back to Zachary Malius being put in the back of a hospital van. And he's performing a prayer on Malius. Grant me the power to contain this evil. He splashes holy water on Malius, who shakes his hands and he's covered in blood. Cut back to the father present day, and he's praying to a statue of Jesus, what looks like a giant concrete statue of Jesus.
Yeah.
Instead of like the human form of Jesus, like looking very like painted, like human looking, it's all gray.
Yeah, it's like all whitish gray and everything, yeah.
And he says, Heavenly Father, I am old and weak. I pray for your guidance and for the courage to do what must be done. Cut to the statue, and you see it breathing.
And blood is coming out of the wound in the side and everything. But yeah, it starts breathing and moving, and it like starts moaning and everything. And it's so good. It's so fucking good. It's so creepy. It's very disturbing. Like, I love it. This is another scene where you're like, this movie didn't have to be this good right here, but it is. And honestly, like, seriously, like, it kind of freaked me out for a split second. I was like, what the hell's going on? And then I realized, I was like, holy shit, this is like one of those scenes where I'm like, this is the reason to watch the movie, is for scenes like this.
Yes. Unlike the next scene, which I'll get to in a minute, but I totally agree with you. This is a beautiful scene. It's very disturbing. It's, doesn't maybe have the right to be in a movie like this. It's really good.
How good it is. But it's very, like, the effects are very well done.
So good. So good. Then you cut back to Bera watching people having sex. And he says, this is a good deal. I sell the video. They get the bitches. I get the riches. And he's doing his European voice as well.
So he's going to be selling these fucking videos?
Yeah, so he's like the Girls Gone Wild guy before Girls Gone Wild.
Yeah, I'm like, good God almighty. Which just makes Liz even worse for not shutting this all down.
Girls Gone Wild, which you've maybe have never heard of, was a thing in the 90s where there'd be girls at parties and they were drunk and people would take advantage of them and get them to film them doing things. Maybe not sex, but like flashing themselves. And then they'd get them to sign a waiver form while they were drunk, so they have no idea what they're signing. And suddenly their whole life is ruined from this one moment. And said dude is like living this lavish lifestyle on yachts in Florida.
Yeah, and like in a fucking, like, he has an island and everything. I mean, I think he eventually went to jail for all this, but like,
I think he did, yeah.
For a minute, he was living the fucking crazy life, man.
And just claiming like, hey, they signed a form. What's the big deal, you know?
Yeah.
So now, Bera hears like some sort of sound and he gets startled, but it's nothing. Cut back to the party. Suddenly the power goes out while everyone's dancing. Cut back to Bera getting annoyed. He turns on the generator in the studio. Power is restored and continues to videotape people having sex.
Yeah. And that little generator is what fucking runs the entire house? I don't think so.
Like, yeah, this is sure. That's not possible. Sure, buddy. Cut back to the police officer. Remember that scene with Sonny and the police officer that happened like 3 hours ago? Well, it's getting wrapped up now.
It's getting wrapped up now.
She tells him to have a good night. He gets on his motorcycle and he leaves. Cut to Jake drinking beers in the living room by himself. And then a woman comes in with handcuffs and a hockey mask. She pulls off the hockey mask and she's a very attractive European woman.
Yeah, very attractive Yugoslavian woman.
She asks if he wants to try something different. And she's got handcuffs in her hand. He just looks at her. And she says, I'll be in your room. And she walks up the stairs. And he just walks. He watches her walk up the stairs. And he continues to lay back in his chair.
And do you notice that the ice axe is now missing off of the mantelpiece?
Yeah, the camera kind of focuses in on the fact that the mantle is gone.
And
the ice axe is gone, yeah.
And did you also notice that in the Blu-ray menu screen has her topless. But that never happens in this movie. She never gets topless. And I don't think the breasts in the picture are much larger than hers actually probably would be. I think they literally superimposed, like photoshopped her head onto a naked body for that image and that's actually the image that's also on the reversible cover for this.
Yep.
I mean, if I were her, I'd be so fucking pissed, man. This
is a perfect example of why this movie is a podcasting after dark movie.
I know.
If you haven't already caught on an hour and a half into this broadcast. Yeah. And what I love about this is like Jake kind of doesn't give a crap about her. He just doesn't care.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's the only one that doesn't engage in these salacious behaviors that all of his other friends do, which is why I think maybe he's gay, and that's fine too. You know, maybe he's just like closeted or something, but that's why I think like his character gets done a little dirty, because he starts out, you think he's sleazy, but throughout the entire rest of the film, you find out that he's not. He cares about his friend's feelings. He tries to like engage with his friend, and he never ever takes advantage of this nice young lady who just wants to have sex with him. He never takes advantage of her.
He never does. Someone who just did, though, and finished was Rich with Kim. Yeah. And that's when you cut to their scene. They're in bed, and it's terrible ADR where she's like, I'm going to go take a shower now, honey.
Yeah, I guarantee you she was also Yugoslavian, but they voice-overed her to be like crazy, like, you know, Southern Alabama woman, you know?
Right. Then you cut to Handcuff Girl, who's now in Jake's bed waiting for Jake. And you cut to Bera quickly watching her on the monitor going, nothing like a foreign student to lend a little exotic flavor. I love those
foreign movies.
God. He starts to record her. The woman's playing with the handcuffs, and she's got the key to the handcuffs. She hears a sound. She kind of dismisses it. Then she goes to light a cigarette, and as she does, the key to the handcuffs falls out of her hand onto the carpet on the floor next to the bed.
Man, she's thirsty for Jake, bro.
Yeah, she is. Quick cut of Sonny riding his motorcycle. It's implied that he's going back to the frat house.
At least this footage isn't sped up like later.
No, that's hilarious. Cut to Kim, Rich's girlfriend, who's taking a shower, but the shower is also in the kitchen? ? So yeah, it's like there's like a kitchen sink. It's European,
a weird
guys.
European house, man.
Everybody does their dishes in the tub. What are you talking about? She knows she's being filmed, and she starts like doing a dance in front of the camera. Bera's watching her, and he's like, oh, yeah. He's blowing a kiss at her, and he's like talking to the camera like she's listening to it, and he's getting all excited.
But she's like super into it. So like, you know, it's like, again, it's like, okay, everything's okay because she's into it.
Someone who's not, though, is the woman that Eric was with, Georgia from ER.
Yeah.
Because you cut to Eric with her, and she's like not into it anymore. And he's like, what do you mean? Like I said, I'm into safe sex, and your little soldier forgot his helmet. He tells her to stay there, and he goes to get one. There's a mannequin in his room, and she gets freaked out by it. She asks him to turn it around, face it the other way. And he says, is there anything else you want? And she goes, not right now. Maybe when you come back. And as he leaves, she suddenly jumps up and puts her clothes on. Cut to Eric finding a bottle of vodka, and he collapses into his chair while drinking the vodka. This is the music you mentioned earlier. It starts playing this like whimsical, dreamlike music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is actually, I don't know why, it's weird, and I really like it.
Yeah, no, me too. Because I was like, I thought at first, I was like, is that music like on some sort of TV there? And I'm like, no, that's the composer trying to basically say that Eric is drunk, you know? And I'm like, okay. But yeah, at the same time, I'm like, I kind of dig it though.
Yeah, me too. It's cool. It's cool.
It's cool.
Cut back. It's cool. It's corn. You know the Korn song?
Yeah.
It's corn. Yeah, I love that. Cut back to Handcuff Girl, and she's now handcuffed herself to the bed, and she hears a sound.
She wants that D, baby.
She thinks it's Jake. Jake, is that you?
Jake, is that you? I can't even do that like Eastern Bloc European.
Jake, it's me. I'm talking to you. It's Dimitri. It's Demetrius. Demetria. That's my name. Dimitri. Victoria. She starts talking to him like he's there, but he's not. Cut back to Georgia, ER girl, in Eric's room. She's writing a note to Jake, and she puts the note on his mirror so he can see it. And it says, "You didn't get laid, but you definitely got screwed. SG," like Sigma.
Or
Delta,
it's like Kappa Sigma. Yeah, Kappa Sigma. She signs
Kappa Sigma.
that,
That's
yeah.
right. Sorry, Kappa Sigma. So it's the rival fraternity.
Right, but like, so I mean, she didn't like film him or something or whatever. Like, what was? She just got him into his room and then left? Like, I don't know.
Oh, I screwed him over. What? Why? By like basically
cock blocking him from every other girl or something?
She didn't. Yeah, it would have made sense if like suddenly she was holding a trophy or something that they had every year, and now she had the trophy.
Exactly. That's what I was looking for. But yeah, it doesn't really
Don't worry though. She'll get her comeuppance in about 2 minutes because she puts the Post-its on his mirror and then she looks at the mirror at herself and she goes, "If I'm not here when you get back, feel free to start without me." Cut to her getting in her car ready to leave.
Can I go through this one? Because like,
yeah, please.
She gets into the car, but all the windows are fogged up. So I'm like immediately like, okay, Malius is in the backseat of the car. This is a Halloween one. This is, that sort of thing. That's what I was expecting.
Oh, totally, yeah.
But no. So she just kind of like rubs the window by the rear view, and so she can look out back. She sees Malius outside. So at that point, I'm like, well, then why are all the windows fogged up? She's like, oh, weird guy outside. Let me get away. She starts to drive, but the car doesn't move. Like the tires just spin. So I'm like, okay, maybe Malius is picking up the back of the car. No, that's not the case either, because he's on the roof of the car and he jams the pick of the ice axe down through the hood of the car into her fucking brain. This is awesome. And it's like the metal spike is sticking out of her mouth from the top, and she's like all like gurgling and everything. Yeah. And then she's kind of like stuck there. And again, she's the best actor in the movie, and that also includes like death wise. And he and it's not just he pulls the axe up, he actually like jams it forward, and she's like, oh, like kind of like this like death rattle thing to her, and then pulls it out. And I'm like, fuck, that was awesome.
And he follows it up by looking at the camera and saying, "No parking."
Yes, and I'm like, why? That was like, just take that out. Don't have that, because his little no things, they're not that clever. And it's like, if you're like a 1,000,000-year-old demon inhabiting the body, like, what do you care about no parking? You're just killing to kill. I don't need a reason for that. So honestly, I would have personally cut all the no whatever out of it. But dude, this death kind of reminded me of like, the house by the cemetery where the girl gets stabbed and the blade comes out of her mouth type of thing. And it's going to happen one more time later. And I am always a sucker for someone getting stabbed in the head and you can see the blade coming out of their mouth. I love that shit.
Yeah, me too.
And the Prowler, it's sort of similar to the Prowler kill too.
Totally. That's probably an homage to the Prowler. Oh, for sure.
Now, the Prowler is one of the best kills in cinema, where he gets that guy in the head and his eyeballs go away. But that was Tom Savini, though.
Prowler is great. Toolbox Murders, the original one, if you've never seen it. Actually, the remake was not that bad either. I believe Tobe Hooper did the remake.
He did. Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, which isn't that bad. It's actually kind of supernatural. This one isn't, sort of supernatural, but we'll get to more of that in a minute. Quick cut to Sonny driving down the road in his motorcycle.
I'm coming, guys. I'm coming.
I'm almost there. Cut back to Kim, who was taking the shower in the kitchen/bathroom, and she closes the mirror. By the way, the medicine cabinet mirror is like shattered because, that's cool. And you can see Malius in the mirror reflection. She turns around and he says, "No sex." And he hits her with the ice axe. Cut to Bera watching on the monitors asking, "Where'd that bitch go?" and then he says, "Fine, Jake, save me." Suddenly the power goes out again. Barrett says, "Not now. Technical difficulties. Please do not adjust your dicks." Cut back to the handcuff girl asking where Jake is. It's been like 2 hours. Jake. And she sees
I'm wet, Jake. I'm ready.
She sees in the mirror she sees in the corner of the room something that looks like it could be Malius, but it's just a mannequin head. Everyone's got a mannequin in their room, I guess.
Yeah.
And then she starts panicking. She's like, "Jake, it's not funny anymore. Jake, it's not funny." and then she sees the key to her handcuffs on the ground. She goes to reach out with her foot to grab it. She's getting close to picking it up, but out of nowhere, Malius walks out from the corner of the bedroom, which is creepy, by the way, and he plunges his ice axe into her foot, and she starts screaming, which causes Jake to get up from the couch finally. Cut to Susan, who's also in the fraternity. She's like in someone's room listening to music or something.
Yeah, I thought the first time I watched it, I thought she was maybe at the sorority house nearby and could hear it. But no, she's been in the house the whole time. So yeah, she's like, and this is the only time she's ever actually a good actress. She's like, what the hell is that? And she actually pulls that line off pretty well.
Yeah, because this is the first time anyone's ever heard any screaming. And cut back to Malius holding bloody handcuffs and saying, "No more."
And you see that the hand has been cut off and her hand is on the floor. Guarantee you, if you look closely, it's probably a man's hand because it was probably the same hand used for a third time at this point.
Sorry, handcuffed lady, your hands are forever man hands.
Seinfeld episode.
Yes.
That's not a twist off. That's one of the best episodes. That's one of my favorite episodes of Seinfeld, the man hands one.
That that series legit, I think, affected my dating life back in the day because I'm like, I can't date her. She smells like soup.
I know.
It's like every little thing.
Because you hone in on one thing, and she becomes soup lady or something. You know.
Yep. If you want to hear more of that, if you want to hear more about that, guys, sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Support the show. Listen to our therapy on said show. Cut back to Liz now. Not Sunny, but Liz is back at the fraternity. The living room's empty. She's going room to room with a lantern. Suddenly, she's on the second floor of the house. And she walks by Rich's room and she sees him dead with a bunch of holes in his back. She screams a maniacal scream, not maniacal, but terrified scream, and runs through the fraternity.
I mean, dude, her run is terrible, bro. It's like she's like bow-legged when she runs. It's really weird.
Corey hates her so much.
I hate her with a passion.
She's running and screaming, and cut back to Sonny, who's still on his motorcycle. Cut back to the church where Henry Collins has Eric and Sonny's dad has arrived.
Flown in from Europe. Darren McGavin, he's here to the rescue.
Kolchak to the rescue.
Yeah.
I love how people are like, "Oh, if you like X-Files, you should watch Kolchak," and you're like, "Yeah, Kolchak's cool. I did like that show, but no." Like you can enjoy both and not have to watch the other one. I remember I was always just like, I get it. Like I get like Kolchak walked so X-Files could sort of run, and I watched it when I was a kid, and I kind of enjoyed it. But it's not a show that I kind of would ever feel the need to ever go back and watch again. No, dude. I was telling Bodie about the Fluke Man the other day, and he's like, "Whoa, it sounds scary." I go, "Yeah, it was scary. Fluke Man was scary."
That was one of the best episodes of X-Files, man.
Totally agree. When when their dad, when Kolchak arrives, you see at the church, you see in like the foreground of a scene when he arrives in the church, the bag that Father Kane has pulled out from the closet. Henry walks up and grabs it, and then he's in like the prayer room or wherever they do their ceremony, and he looks up where the cross was, and the cross is now hanging upside down and swinging back and forth, and Father Kane's hanging from the cross with his face ripped apart. Henry grabs the bag and storms off.
Yeah, no, it's cool because he's like also sort of like his head is like wrapped in barbed wire or something. And yeah, the cross is like upside down. And honestly, I was like getting a little bit of like imagery of Event Horizon when they see the video, or whatever. Like it kind of reminded me a little bit of that.
Oh, yeah. God, I love that. Yeah. If any of you want us to break down Event Horizon, sign up to our highest tier on Patreon. Patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. You can sign up at the highest tier. We'll break down whatever movie you want, like Event Horizon or Dumb and Dumber. Just kidding. Do not suggest Dumb and Dumber.
But happily, man, I would happily break down Event Horizon. I love that movie.
No doubt about it. Henry has not left the church. He's now at the father's bedroom or office, and he picks up a phone. The phone's dead, so the line's been cut.
I guess.
And then he finds the note that the father wrote, and you start hearing the father's voiceover reading the note again. It's the exact voiceover from earlier. again to remind you. I'm not going to read it for you guys again.
And all I'm waiting for is like in Fletch when he's in the doctor's thing. He's like, me? Like it's like he's like this. I'm reading about me. This is me.
Right? Yeah, because it's basically a confession, right?
Yeah, it's like I told you my shit in secret.
I thought we had this, patient doctor confidentiality thing.
Yeah, there's like this unwritten agreement that we're allowed to confess, and you'll never tell anyone. You wrote it all down.
Hippocratic oath or whatever, right? Come back to Liz at the fraternity finding blood all over the floor. Cats and dogs, everyone's bleeding. Hysteria. Everyone's got blood's coming out of every hole.
Well, because she finds the girl the girl in the bathtub, and it's like just her body parts are in the tub, and it's all filled with like blood and everything. And I was like, that's fucking cool.
And she finds the head in the trash, right?
Yeah, it's great. That's actually really good.
Appropriate. Liz drops the lantern, runs down the hallway,
screaming again.
Then she sees a shadow walk past her. She's in a living room now. She sees Jake's dead body on the bottom floor. And it's funny because she comes in the front entrance and Jake wasn't there, but whatever. He's like still alive. He's about to be dead. She's like checking his pulse and he's dead. He's dead as dead.
Poor Jake.
Poor Jake. R.I.P. Jake. Cut to Barra in his studio trying to get the power back on. And then Sonny walks in behind him. Barra says, "You scared the shit out of me." Sonny goes, "I'm going to beat the shit out of you. You know what you've done? Ralph's dead. Some crazy things walking around out there. It's crazy." Sonny has this is when you really hear his accent, by the way.
And I like it. Barra literally goes, "Ralph's dead?" And Sonny goes, "Well, don't worry about that right now. Like, never mind that." I'm like, what? No, that's the one thing you're not supposed to never mind.
Right. And then suddenly the power goes back on and the monitors are all suddenly on. And then they see a weird shadow move across the screen on one monitor. Sonny asks if he's got walkie-talkies. Barra gives him one, and he goes, "I'm going to go find Liz." Sonny tells Barra, "If you see anything on the monitors, you tell me. And if you try to split, I swear to God, I'll kill you." You cut to Liz walking in on a room where Malius is. She screams, and she leaves the room. Malius just watches her leave.
Yeah, I'll get you later. Don't worry.
I'll get you later. She runs to a room, and the door won't open, right? The door handle falls off.
The door handle falls off.
Oh, it's a European room,
It does, but it literally falls off and she has to screw it back on. Guarantee you that wasn't a part of the script.
Suddenly, Malius is walking after her with the ice axe. She runs into another room, hides in a corner because that's what you do. Why not just try to leave the house? I have no idea.
Yeah, even though he almost looked like he could see what, room she went into, and okay, sure, fine, whatever. But it's a bait and switch because Eric walks through the door.
Eric walks in. She's like, "Oh, thank God." She tells him what happened. And he's like, "There's no one there." And she hugs him right when Sonny walks in. And Sonny goes, "Oh, how nice." Suddenly, Liz walks away from Eric, scumbag Liz. And Liz tells him to take it easy. And Sonny goes, "Fuck easy." He gives the Polaroid to Eric. And Sonny says, "Ralph took the pictures. Hope you enjoy them because he's dead." Liz looks at the pictures and says, "That's who I saw. That's the inmate from the asylum." Suddenly, Barra chimes in on the walkie-talkie, and he goes, "There's something moving on the 3rd floor." Sonny asks if he can tell who it is, and Barra says, "No, it's pretty dark, but he's moving toward the attic."
So, Zach, I don't know if you ever played on the Sega CD Night Trap.
No, but I know that game, yeah.
Yeah, that famous game with Dana Plato was in it, and it kind of got banned and everything. But the premise of that game is you're watching these security monitors for these vampires going after these, sorority girls or whatever the hell it is, and you have to kind of direct people to kind of get them to safety through these security monitors. And I was like, oh my God, did this movie rip off Night Trap? And no, Night Trap actually came out in 1992. So this came out first, but it's so funny because literally Barra is you the player in Night Trap essentially.
Oh, and wasn't there also a Halloween movie where it was the death of Michael Myers? One of those where
the Resurrection is the one where they're watching it on TV because they set up I think the Michael Myers house, right?
Yeah.
With camera. That's the one with Busta Rhymes in it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that came, and there's another movie called Kolobos that I definitely want to break down for Pat eventually.
You've been talking about that since literally season 1.
Yeah, we will get to that movie too, but that also has this voyeuristic element to it. This is kind of early in the voyeuristic realm,
genre. It's just starting this whole the Girls Gone Wild era, but this is 91, so this is still pretty early in, and we're not going to get that stuff until a few more years. Like I think that's like 93, 94-ish,
91, son. Whoop whoop.
Yugoslavia, son.
Okay, USA. So suddenly, Liz is like, that could be Susan, and the three of them go, like, let's go get her. No, I'm kidding. The three of them, like the Scooby Gang, head up towards the attic where they go to look around. Suddenly, they find Susan, who's all freaked out in the attic. She's like, they're all dead. Everybody's dead. Liz is trying to calm her down. This is, again, I'm sure you'll talk about the wonkiness of the scene because it's all over the place continuity-wise.
All over.
Liz tries to calm her down while Sonny tells Barrett that they're fine. Barrett's like, just barricade yourselves in there. I'll go for help. And Sonny's like, you stay where you're at.
You son of a bitch.
And Eric says, this whole thing was Barrett's idea. They need to find out who's still alive. And Barrett tells him to hurry because I'm all alone down here, I think. Cut back to Liz, who's holding Susan's hand like she's not in view. And Liz is telling Susan to take it easy. You're squeezing me too hard. Liz turns around and Susan's in the chair facing away from Liz, too far for her to have her arm reached out.
Yeah.
Susan's throat is slashed, and they go to check on Susan, and her head falls off.
And of course, Liz screams. But I looked at Eric, and he's like hyperventilating. He's like, oh. And it's Eric's reaction is the weirdest reaction to someone's head coming off in a movie that I've ever seen in my entire life.
And also the fact that he tells her it's okay, over and over again. He's holding Liz, he's like comforting her, and he's like, it's okay. And you're like, no, it's not okay. She just saw her best friend decapitated.
Yeah.
And also too, like she's telling Liz is telling Susan that she's holding her too hard, but then suddenly like Susan's like 5 feet away from her.
Yeah, you're expecting another severed hand gag in that moment. Like the script was almost like trying to lead that for you, but I think like the filmmakers were like, this would be like the third severed hand. Maybe we do something different here, but
right.
They didn't change the script, No.
And in this moment too, Eric realizes he has a diving gun, like a spear gun in the attic, and they go to get that. And there's a quick shot of Malius now in the attic watching them. And this is a common trope in ever since Enter the Dragon, I think, was the one who started this. Eric shoots the spear gun at Malius, but it ends up being just a mirror.
Yeah.
Eric reloads the spear gun, and the three of them take off, and they leave the attic.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim.
And I'm Dean.
And we're the hosts of Talking Back. We're a retro-based podcast covering movies, comics, video games, and more.
Check us out every Monday where we hit the rewind button and dig into some of our favorite content from the past. We like to keep things fun, lighthearted, and informative.
Do you feel like you need more nostalgia in your life? Then check out Talking Back. We're available everywhere podcasts are found.
And now, back to the show.
They're now searching rooms for Malius. Meanwhile, Bera is telling them, like, as they're going from one room to another, everything's all clear. And they go into Eric's room. Liz sees the mannequin, and she gets all freaked out. And Eric goes, oh, no, that's just Claudia. I'm like, oh, it has a name. What have you been doing with this mannequin? Sonny checks on it, and he's like, it's just a mannequin. See, it's just a mannequin. And then suddenly Bera's like, someone's in the room with you. Someone's in the room. And Sonny's like, no, it's just a mannequin. And then suddenly he slaps the mannequin, but out of nowhere, Malius slices Sonny in the arm with the ice axe.
Yeah, because it's like somehow somehow Malius replaced the mannequin, is now standing in that spot, and this scene is so weird. Yeah, it's so weird.
It's all over the place.
And I guess you could just say it's supernatural.
Supernatural.
And he can like teleport objects or whatever, because then even now, so he's standing like on the right side of the room, you know, he slices Sonny, and so Sonny sort of falls over, but then they look up, and now Malius is behind Liz, holding the ice pick to her stomach, but his back is against the window, the outdoor window, but that's like on the other side of the room, so it's almost like he teleported. And again, we just have to just assume, you know, demon teleportation, I guess.
Demon teleportation, Holmes.
Yeah. Mind bullets.
And then suddenly Liz knocks Malius out of the way, and Eric shoots Malius with the spear gun, shooting him out the window. Very much an homage to Halloween 1 when Michael Myers hits the ground. And then Liz says, the nightmare's over. And Eric checks on Sonny's arm. Then the door opens, and it's Collins, their dad. And
it's Kolchak. He's there to save the day.
And Eric's like, what are you doing here, Dad? And Henry goes, oh, thank God. I thought I was too late. He tells the boys, I came here because there's something that I must do. Something I have to tell you. Everything that's happened tonight, all the murders, I'm responsible for all of them. Eric says, how could that be? You weren't even here when that happened. Henry says, I was here when it happened. A man came to me, made me an offer, an opportunity to have everything I could want in life. As he continues, you get a flashback back to 1965.
But you also get like a transition that's like a star transition, like into him, like something you would see like on Star Wars. Like, you know, George Lucas loves his weird, you know, transitions, and this is like some kind of weird star transition that comes out of Kolchak and then takes us into the past.
Yeah, and all the while this is happening, Barris is getting excited, and it's funny because it cuts to Barris while Kolchak is confessing his story, and Barris is like setting up his monitors to record it, right? And Kolchak says, I broke into the mausoleum where I opened the casket of Zachary Malius. I removed the body of the priest, and we performed a ritual, and the ritual of the calling. And then this is when Barris like gets on the TV camera, and he's like, tonight, terror returns to Winfield County. Ned Barra reporting from Phi Delta Fraternity House, where it all began 25 years ago tonight. The mystery solved. You're about to hear the actual confession of Henry Collins and the truth behind those horrible crimes, past and present. As he's about to say, live, suddenly an axe, the ice axe, comes out behind the sheet of his like STV display,
and it's terrible. It's like they have a sheet hanging up with like he's just spray paint. Yeah, and it's not even like straight, but yeah, it hits him in the back of the head, comes out his eye, which is great. I always love that as well. And what does Malius say?
No STV.
God, I hate that so much. But what I didn't understand was the whole time that Bear is talking, like, I know he's recording the, like, you know, Kolchak's like thing, what he's saying, like his monologue, but we don't hear it. We hear, like,
that's the problem.
Bear is talking over it. I'm like, Bear, record it first and listen to it and then report on it. You don't literally start your reporting as the monologue is happening, because you're not going to know what the fuck he said. Like, I was like, and then of course us as the viewers, we can't hear what Kolchak, what Darren McGavin is saying. You know, like, we hear him start it, and that's it. We don't hear him, but we hear him talking to his two sons and his horrible would-be daughter-in-law, you know, like, but like, we don't actually get to hear it because we hear Barra instead.
Yeah, exactly. So because he's telling the whole story about like what it is. It's the personification of evil. It wanted my soul. It wants everyone's soul. And, you know, Liz is like, well, what does that have to do with the inmate? And Henry says, well, it's here. It's here because of my past. It will come to destroy me and all my blood descendants. And Eric says, it? What do you mean, it? We killed him. And Henry said, no, he's not dead yet. Liz looks out the window and says, he's gone. He's not there, because he is gone. Sonny looks out the window too, and the body's gone. Sonny wants to leave. The most logical person in the group so far.
Of course.
Henry says, no, we can't go. No matter where we go, no matter where we hide, it will find us. Liz says there must be something to stop it. Kolchak says, there is only one other ritual. Sonny says, do what you want. I'm going to take my chances. And he goes to leave. And then Eric says, no one's leaving until we figure this out. And Henry backs up against the door as they're talking. Sorry, Kolchak. And Kolchak's blocking Sonny from trying to leave. And Kolchak says, this is what he wants. He wants us to turn against each other. And suddenly you see like this, the spirit energy zooming through the house. Very
Malius is running through the house essentially.
Right. And then out of nowhere, the ice axe goes through the door into Kolchak's back. Eric pulls them off, and you see the axe plunge through the door. Malius is now carving holes through the door like Swiss cheese. Eric and Sonny push a dresser in front of the door to block him from getting in. They lay Kolchak on the bed. They check his pulse, and they think he's dead because they pull a sheet over his body.
I mean, yeah, I guess in theory he's supposed to be dead, but I do like it because, as Kolchak is standing in front of the door, you don't know what's happening because all of a sudden he's like, oh, and you're like, what? And then he falls forward, and that's when the axe is like sticking through the door with blood on it, But
right.
Yeah, no, Kolchak, unfortunately, this is not the killing blow. His own son will deliver the killing blow.
Don't spoil that. That's one of the best parts of the movie. It's hilarious. So they open up Kolchak's bag and pull out a book. And Eric says to Liz, he's like, oh, you got to read this. It's in Latin. She starts reading the book and she goes, this is the book of the calling. With this knowledge, thou shalt possess the power to command passage through the gate of no return. As she's talking, the walls start rattling. Paint is falling off the ceiling. Plaster's falling on their heads. And she says, whoever calls back the demon, a circle must surround the celebrant at the place where the calling was performed. Sonny says, that's the mausoleum. Liz continues and says, whoever does this must remain inside the circle, for only there will the celebrant will be safe from the demon. Upon the completion of the final incantation, the dagger must be removed from the earth and thrust into the heart of the subject. This will open the gateway between the world and return the demon to that place from which it came. Above all, do not hesitate in the completion of this act, for the demon is clever. It will trick you. She says, if the celebrant is unable to flee from the place of the calling, his soul will return with the demon to the world of darkness and eternal torment and forever be damned. The rattling stops. Eric gets up and grabs a rope and ties it and ties it against something in his room. And they're going to lead everybody out through the second story window to go to the mausoleum.
Right.
But when this happens, you see Kolchak's hand fall out underneath the sheet and kind of move a little bit.
Yeah, kind of raises up a little bit. And they're going to use this exact same shot again in 30 seconds.
Right. Suddenly, the dresser is now moved away from the door that was blocking it.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. You're right.
And then, the door's open, right? Sonny runs over to the bed and check, and there's no body on the bed.
Yeah.
Sonny leaves the room, calling for his dad. He's in the hallway.
Well, so wait, at this point, Liz and Eric are out the window.
Sorry, yeah, Liz and Eric are now out of the window.
They're down, down on the ground. But yeah, Sonny didn't go because his arm's bloody too,
Yeah, he was going to stay there. Quick cut to Eric and Liz running through the cemetery to the mausoleum to perform the ritual. And Sonny's calling for his dad. And he goes back into Eric's room and he sees something under the sheet. Quick cut to Liz and Eric in the mausoleum. Then you cut back to Sonny, who's now in the bedroom, and he sees the ice axe on the bed. He picks it up, plunges it into the body, and whatever was underneath the sheet rises up. Oh, it's Kolchak screaming in pain as he looks up at his son then falls back dead. Sonny killed his dad. And what does Sonny do? I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. Apologizes.
He fucking makes eye contact with his son as he's dying. But it's such a weirdly shot and blocked out scene because, yeah, his body's gone, but I guess that's the whole, what is she saying about the demon being clever or whatever. But yeah, Sonny leaves the room, then comes back in the room, and then his dad is back under the sheets, and he fucking stabs him because Dad's not dead yet. He's dead now because he sees that thing right in his fucking heart.
He's dead now, so Darren got his $2,000 paycheck and split.
As he sits up, he's like, Papa says!
Totally.
Ate my ham.
Oh my God. So good. So good. Cut back to Liz and Eric in the mausoleum. in the basement, finding the grave of Zachary Malius. Casket's open, like it was in the beginning of the movie. Liz is certain that this is the area they need to set up the ritual. She pulls all the stuff out of the bag and gets started. Cut back to Sonny grieving over his dad that he killed. He looks out the window of the second story and starts to climb down with his bloody arm. As he does, his leg gets caught in the rope and he's like swung upside down. So now he's hanging upside down by his leg and it facing the window of the first story.
And you can see the wires holding him, right? Like you saw that?
Yes. Not a boom mic in this movie, but definitely wires holding up Sonny.
Yes, absolutely. Because in a second, he's like sort of out of the way and you're going to see the wire pull him to the left.
Right. And then you see Malius look out the window and see Sonny and smile, which I think is actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
And he's holding the ice axe. Cut back to Liz and Eric performing the ritual. Liz is speaking the incantation from the book. I summon the creature of darkness. I summon the creature of hatred by the works of hatred. You cut back to Sonny hanging upside down. Malius plunges the ice axe through the window, trying to hit Sonny, but he misses. Cut back to Liz and Eric, continuing the ritual. Eric plunges the crucifix dagger into the circle, causing Malius to scream in pain. Back at the fraternity. Cut back to Liz and Eric. Liz asks if he heard something, and Eric says, something must have gone wrong. He goes to leave to check on Sonny, presumably. And Liz is like, you can't leave the circle. And Eric goes, I gotta go check on my brother. He tells Liz he'll be back. Cut back to Malius screaming in pain from the window where Sonny's hanging upside down. Sonny takes a piece of broken glass from the window and uses it to cut the rope. Cut back to Eric running through the cemetery again to see his brother. And as he does, he falls into an empty grave. He looks up from the grave and sees Malius above him with a pickaxe. Cut back to Liz continuing the ritual, saying, Jesus, Lord of abominations and the master of the 77 demons. Suddenly, she hears a moaning and she turns around, and who's standing there with a smile on his face but Malius holding his ice axe. What's connected to his ice axe? But Eric, because the ice axe is plunged up underneath his chin coming out of his mouth. Here's your second mouth kill, or not kill, but second ice kill related thingy.
Yeah, I know this one's good too. The thing is, spoiler alert, Eric's not going to die from this, which is wild to me. But yeah, he takes some damage here, man. He takes some fucking damage.
It reminds me of Pierce Brosnan, not Pierce Brosnan, but oh my God, what's his face in Hot Fuzz from...
oh yeah, that was Dalton.
Timothy Dalton.
Yeah, because the same thing happened to him. The spike thing goes through his chin and out of his mouth, where the tongue is.
I guess you can still live from that. So
Timothy Dalton, right?
Timothy Dalton, yeah. What's funny, what's kind of cool though, is Eric like motions to her to keep going.
Yeah.
And because Malice is like smiling, because Liz is she drew a white chalk line circle around herself, and she's protected in the circle allegedly. She goes back to reading the incantations. And she says, in the name of the covenant, open the gate that he may return. And Eric's screaming in pain. While this is going on, Liz continues her the ritual, and she's turned her back to Malius and Eric, and then suddenly she realizes Eric isn't there. He's now in the coffin of Zachary Malius. She leaves the circle. Suddenly, up from behind, Malius grabs her with the ice axe. But out of nowhere, Sonny rides his motorcycle down through the mausoleum and knocks Malius back, and Malius falls into a bear trap, and his hand gets caught in the bear trap.
Dude, but the motorcycle footage is so like sped up, like Mad Max sped up footage as he's like navigating. And the thing is, it's also like a dirt bike. It's not like his normal bike, but it's supposed to be. It's hilarious. I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad.
So funny. It reminds me though of like something from Demons, like an Italian horror film.
Well, in The Covenant too. Remember when she's riding the motorcycle in the convent? In the convent.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I actually, when I reviewed this, my little letterbox review, I said this would be a good pairing with The Convent.
Oh, totally. I agree. Liz tells Sonny that Eric's trapped in the coffin, and they go to open and get him out. Meanwhile, Malius is sitting there on the ground with his hand in the bear trap looking at them, struggling to get out of the bear trap, but he's not talking or making any noises.
This is the point where I wish he said, no bear traps.
Yeah, right? But Sonny takes the ice axe and uses it to pry open the coffin, getting Eric out, who's now has a hole in the bottom of under his chin, spewing blood, and get him out of the mausoleum. Meanwhile, Malice continues to struggle with the bear trap, trying to get free. Liz and Sonny bring Eric outside the mausoleum. Sonny asks if everything's ready, and Liz says, yeah, just the last few words. So they go back in to complete the ritual, leaving Eric gurgling in his own blood. Well, so not only does his brother, his girlfriend cheat on him with his brother, but now they're leaving him to die.
Yeah,
because he could die. They go back inside. Malius is still trapped. Liz continues the spell. I command him to obey the secret ceremonies, return to the world of darkness and eternal torment. I summon the creature of pain by the works of pain, and the name of the covenant I charge and command thee. I summon the creature of hatred by the works of hatred. While she's saying this whole ritual, Malius sees his scalpel from originally in the movie, grabs it, and severs his own arm from the trap.
Well,
Suddenly,
I'm like, why do you not, like, he starts cutting through his bicep. I'm like, it would probably be faster to cut through your wrist. And clearly he doesn't care. Like, he doesn't feel any pain, but I'm like, why not just cut the wrist, not the fucking bicep? Oh, demons, you silly, silly thing.
Suddenly he reappears out of nowhere. Sonny and Liz are in the circle. Malius has handcuffs from
the European chick, right? Yeah.
And he puts the handcuffs, the bloody handcuffs, onto Sonny, and he smiles. Now, Sonny and Malius are stuck together. Liz steps away from the circle, and Sonny asks, is there any other way out of this? And Liz says, no, he tricked us. And then Sonny goes, no, he didn't. And he has the dagger in his hand, the crucifix dagger, and he plunges it into Malius's chest. When he does, this causes blood to spill out of Malius's mouth, and a hole opens above them in the ceiling of the mausoleum with light shining through.
Yeah, really cool. And then the wall opens up with light and everything like that.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, and Malius is still cuffed to Sonny. And then the wall rips open, lights shining through the hole, and then suddenly everything goes black. And Liz is alone in the basement of the mausoleum. She hears sirens. She leaves the mausoleum to find cops arriving, and the sheriff is there. Sheriff tells Liz that he'll be okay, he being Eric. And he asks if anyone else is in there. He gives her Sonny's leather jacket, and she just shakes her head like no. Sonny was wearing his leather jacket when he got sucked into the portal.
I think he was, but that hell didn't want that leather jacket.
Hell didn't want the leather jacket, and didn't want Malius too, because you cut to Liz now at the ambulance where Eric is, and he's alive, but he looks like crap. She gets in the ambulance with him, with the leather jacket. She puts it on top of Eric. He asks how she's doing. She goes, okay. And then suddenly, very similar to Phantasm 2, she goes, everything's going to be all right now. Just like Mike said to Liz in Phantasm 2. Suddenly, the car starts, and the driver of the ambulance turns around, and it's Malius. And he smiles and says, no problem. The ambulance drives off, and the credits roll with a very punk rock song that's like a Happy Hell Night inspired song, and the movie ends.
Yeah, the song's cool because it's about the movie and everything. So again, more shades of Event Horizon. So, Sonny sacrifices himself and gets fucking taken to hell. And as someone who was raised Catholic, obviously not practicing anymore, it's still a fucking ingrained fear of mine is being taken to hell when I don't deserve it. You know what I mean? And even as a kid, I was like, well, but then shouldn't God or an angel be able to go save Sonny because he doesn't deserve to be in hell? But that still scares me. And then the fact that Liz and Eric get their happy ending, it's like, no, Liz doesn't deserve. Liz should have been the one that fucking got sucked to hell and left Sonny and Eric alive. Not Sonny. Liz, right. Why does Liz get off scot-free out of all of this? She's the fucking worst.
I totally agree. This ending, that portal moment reminded me of Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
When, Lisa Blount's character plunges Satan through the hole.
Yep.
Sacrifices herself. Also reminded me a little bit of Drag Me to Hell, the Sam Raimi movie.
Yep.
Very underrated.
That's a great movie.
Great movie. If anybody wants us to break that movie down, sign up to patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. Become a producer of the show, and we'll break down Drag Me to Hell. It's that easy, guys. Just click the button and accept. It would be a great Christmas present to us and a present to you. It's a win-win. Look, this movie is super low budget. It's cheesy. The acting at times is flat. There's moments where you're just like, oh, that didn't line up continuity wise, but it's fun. It's silly. It's got a cool premise, it's got a supernatural premise for a slasher movie, because that's what it is at its heart. It's a slasher movie. And though it takes place on Halloween, you can enjoy Happy Hell Night any time of the year.
Yeah, no, dude, I'm, this is Thanksgiving, so I'm very thankful that Happy Hell Night exists. I'm thankful that I saw it. Everything you said, I agree with. It's a silly movie. No turkey. It's a silly film. The acting is kind of all over the place, but what really works in this movie. Malius really works. The scene with the weird crucifix, the concrete Jesus or whatever he is, like that really fucking worked. Everything with Malius worked. All the nudity works. All the kills were great. Pretty much all the kills were great, but the Georgia Fox one was definitely the best kill in the movie. Yeah, man, I mean, seriously, if you already made it this far, you know that we very much enjoyed this movie, and if you can track it down, if it's on YouTube, just go watch it. It's worth it. It's worth your time. I mean, we've gone an hour over longer than what this movie's runtime actually is, and it's so worth your time. I love it. I'm going to watch it multiple times throughout my life.
Yeah, it's super fun, and it's more fun to watch with your buddies. So,
yeah.
Make a big bucket of popcorn and throw some Sour Patch Kids in there or whatever you'd like to do.
Yeah.
My son likes to throw M&Ms in his popcorn. Whatever you want to do, and enjoy Happy Hell Night.
Yeah, and like you said, everything going on Patreon. You can swing on to our website for links to everything, podcastafterdark.com. That'll give you links to our Patreon page, all our social media pages, our merch store. We have shirts you can purchase. Shirts. We have a lot of different designs, a lot of them that I actually designed to myself. So cool shit over there. So podcastafterdark.com. That's podcastafterdark.com. And of course, $2 late fee has the same thing. You guys have a website as well, TWO. That's $2latefee.com. And what's going on in November over on $2 late fee?
Oh my gosh, November has been a very busy month at $2 late fee. We have an interview with Finola Hughes from Staying Alive, Aspen Extreme. Obviously, 80s Kids Unite this month with superpowers. And we're wrapping up the month of November with a double feature from Territory Marks. The month of December is 5 weeks. So we're cutting into December with 2 interviews that we did with Territory Marks. One is with a guy named Steve Kern, who may not be a household name when it comes to wrestling fans who are not familiar with not diehard wrestling fans, but this guy has been in the business since the 70s. He tells one great story after another. And then a good buddy of ours, Mark Lawrence, who was a commentator for World Class Championship Wrestling, the Von Erichs promotion, he joined Paul London and I in studio and to do basically a regular episode of Territory Marks where we discuss matches, but we got the guy there who did the commentary for the matches, which was really cool.
That's neat, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, so those will both be video and audio on our YouTube channel. It would be great if you could go to our YouTube channel. Same with Podcasting After Dark. We will get content on there eventually, but go to our YouTube channels and subscribe to our YouTube channels. We've already cracked 1,000 on $2 late fee. We'd love to crack 2,000. Keep us going. So, that's what we're doing over at $2 late fee. December wraps up. Our Dustin made an announcement on one of our episodes this month on $2 late fee that he's going to be taking a leave of absence from the show. $2 late fee will continue on. But it's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to be wrapping up Dustin's 5 years on the show with me at the end of December. So stay tuned for some fun stuff coming in December from us. And then don't fear the Reaper, because I will continue on. It's going to be different, and you'll hear more about that in January.
Yeah, no, I hope Dustin's still on the 80s Kids Unite episodes. And the one
he will. Yeah, he's going to be coming around and, making appearances. He just won't be a regular addition to the show. It's going to be slightly different.
Yeah. But the latest 80s Kids Unite was a lot of fun. I am currently editing that as we speak, and that should be dropping short. Actually, My bad. It's already out, guys. Sorry. It's already out by the time this drops. So disregard. You've already heard it. Love you all. And as always,
we'll catch you on the dark side.
No podcast.
Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.
I'm John, and I'm the host of Action Action. Every week, I'm joined by James.
Heyo.
And Dustin.
Hello.
And each week, we review, debate, and rank a different action movie.
We're creating the ultimate list of action movies.
From awful to awesome.
So if you want to hear 3 more white guys with beards talk about action movies.
And argue about where they belong on our list.
And decide you hate us because we made fun of your favorite movie.
Join us every Tuesday, and you can find us on your favorite podcatcher.
And Steven Seagal is a joke.